All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics Local, America's number one
On.
political hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics Local. So, listen, we have an incredible show for you all tonight. There's a lot going on in the world, and I guess if you anything like me, every time your phone goes off, get a notice, you trying to do everything you can not to read it. So I'm gonna let Zaid go ahead and give you the rundown. What we're gonna have. So Zaid, it's on you,
Yes,
brother.
sir. Looking forward to a conversation with Chloe Desir, young organizer with the Ironbound Community.
I think you froze. Um,
Oh man,
yeah, I think you froze, brother. So I think what he was saying was a brother from Chloe Desir of the Ironbound Community Corporation.
come on.
Uh,
You able can y'all hear me?
yeah, you back. You back.
Oh, it's crazy. This happens. The connection is anyway. Chloe Desir, amazing young organizer with the Ironbound Community Corporation. This is her first time on the show. It's going to be talking about an epic battle that we're dealing with against a big power plant. Newark already has 3 toxic power plants uh, in the Ironbound section, and there's a fourth one trying to push in. And everybody doesn't raise hell to prevent that.
Heard about that.
Miss Willa Cofield, cherished elder freedom fighter, now in her 90s. Her narrative is organization for pride.
Zaid, what's happening is that you're going in and out. So, um, not sure what's going on, but I know you were talking about a couple of people coming through. You're going in and out, Zaid.
And it's infuriating. I have no idea why that's happening.
Mhm.
Um,
So you was talking about the 90-year
Cofield.
old.
Miss Cofield will be on at 6:45. Her narrative, the 9 o'clock whistle, is finally out. Incredibly, on the University of Mississippi Press. Oh my God. Oh,
You may need to go in and come back out. I don't know. You know.
yeah, and I'll do that. But she'll be joined by Marcella Simaderis, People's Organization for Progress, who facilitated this conversation tomorrow, and Kellia Sweatt, who will actually do the conversation in real time. A long time. Will be on it. I have no idea why I'm having issues with this link. I have no idea why. Ugh. All right, I'm going to go out and come back in, and Chloe should be ready to join us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, can you hear me?
So yeah, Zaid is having some difficulty with his connection. So he was trying to give the rundown. Are you familiar with the guests that are going to be doing tonight?
Absolutely. I'm familiar with the guest tonight. We have Chloe Desir of the Ironbound Community Corporation, and she's going to talk about that fourth unwanted power plant in the city of Newark. That's been a site of contention for some time, and they will give us an update on what is going on with that. We know the Ironbound Community Corporation has been doing great work in the city of Newark, dealing with environmental justice for many years. They have a great history, and we're glad to have Chloe Desir back on. We have Kellia Sweatt, Marcella Simaderis, and Willa Cofield on, talking about Willa Cofield's book, The 9 O'clock Whistle. She has a book signing at Montclair Library, and we'll talk about the book and its relevant now. It is very much a civil rights book. And what she's talking about in that book, I believe, is very relevant to what's going on now. And I'm happy to learn, and I am looking forward to this conversation. At 7:30, we have Richard Avent of Each One Teach One. Has a great history of teaching, and education, and tutoring, and he will talk about that at 7:30. At 8 o'clock, we have Hakim Green. And he's going to be on from Orlando, Florida, and he will have a guest. At least make a little bit of a cameo appearance in KRS-One. So he talked about that. So KRS-One might be making a cameo appearance. That's a little shout out on the show. We look forward to that at 8. At 8:30, we're going to have DJ Rhino in the State of Hip Hop. And that rounds out the show.
All right. So we're ready to bring on our first guest.
All right. So, hello, Chloe Desir. And am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah, Chloe Desir, that's me.
Okay, well, it's an honor to have you on. You've done such great work at the Ironbound Community Corporation. That the organization is just historic in its fights for environmental justice for years, cleaning up and making sure that literally millions and millions and millions of dollars have come in to clean up the poisons that were left by corporations and by multiple corporations over time, making sure that parks that were filled with radon stopped being filled with radon, that they excavated all of the literally radiated soil out that was killing kids and adults. They had Newark as a cancer cluster. So it's in that history that we're having this conversation. So, fourth power plant in the city of Newark. Can you give us some background on why another power plant's being built in the city of Newark? And many people will be like, yay, another power plant. That means we have more power in Newark, right? Like, we got more power in Newark from the power plant. So why is that a bad thing? Why are people fighting against it? Why are we so opposed to more power coming to Newark?
Yeah, I'm happy to dive into it and start from where it all began with this issue here. So I have been working on this campaign since I started working with ICC almost 4 years ago. And I'm happy to be back. Thank you guys so much for having me again here on this platform. But yeah, so Passaic Valley Sewage Commission, right? A lot of folks throughout Northern and Central, if you believe in it, whenever they flush their toilet, this is exactly where it goes, to the backyard of the Ironbound, essentially. And what had happened was during Hurricane Sandy, this Passaic Valley Sewage Commission, which processes a lot of sewage, they actually lost power and ended up having to dump sewage into the Newark Bay. Not to mention, when you're in the Ironbound, after what, 15, 20 minutes of rain, you're in a flood zone. So, that obviously amassed to having sewage water and flood water in the midst of a hurricane. And that's obviously not a good combination to have in any scenario. So FEMA decided as a result to provide funding, millions of dollars, for PVSC to come up with a solution to prevent that from happening again. And so with that, they decided we are going to create another power plant to prevent that from happening, a backup power plant. Now, the issue with that is, since Hurricane Sandy has happened, we have had a couple of other, pretty big storms come out. We had Hurricane Henri, we had Hurricane Ida, and since Hurricane Sandy, PSC&G was able to help strengthen the power grid with PVSC through their Energy Strong program to withstand any further detriment that could come towards the facility. So even with those stronger hurricanes, Hurricane Henri and Hurricane Ida were stronger hurricanes than Sandy. They were able to withstand both of those hurricanes. So there really isn't a real solution to say, or real answer to give, when we can say that this power plant isn't even a necessity. It's not something that we need anymore. And when we think of power plants, I think it's important to acknowledge that these power plants are extractive, right? Not only are they...
And what do you mean by extractive? Like, what
Yeah,
does
yeah.
that term mean?
Yeah, so when I'm saying extract, it means taking away from, right? So this power plant would be extracting fossil fuels and all of these different minerals from the ground, right? The fossil fuels, the dinosaur bones, right? All of those things from the earth to create energy to power this plant and give off emissions that are adding to the statistics of our terrible air quality in Newark, and also adding to the statistics of asthma rates in the city of Newark as well, which are 3 times higher than the state's average. A big problem.
So so you're saying that the plant, right? So we have four power plants currently in Newark.
We got
We have
three.
three power plants currently in Newark.
Mm-hmm.
This would be the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
And power plants are known for generating high rates of pollution.
Yeah.
And so is we look at the Newark is surrounded by highways. We understand that we have three power plants that push pollution. We have high rates of asthma. Are there health implications to the three power plants we have? And
Yeah.
are there health implications to having a fourth one? Can you break that one down? Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, I think it's important to mention all of the other factors that come into play, and on top of having three power plants in the same 4 square miles of a neighborhood, right? We also have the state's largest garbage incinerator that's also giving off emissions. And then we have the port that has thousands of trucks passing by on a daily basis, adding to even more emissions. You know, all of those things are a culmination of sources in which we can get pollution from. So, trying to put those things into perspective, you're getting different pollutants such as particulate matter, which is like that easily, once you breathe it in, it's already in your bloodstream, right? And then on top of that, we've also got all other factors that we need to put into play, because there's other types of particulate matter that we need to consider too. There's 2.5, there's 5, and then there's other emissions that have been brought into the air. Covanta, for example, now greenwashed into the term reworld. They've had moments where they've even emitted purple plume into the air because someone accidentally dumped iodine into their waste systems. So thinking
Purple
about how,
plume?
say again,
Like we had like this smoke coming out that was purple that came into the Newark, like into the skies.
into the sky. If you were driving past the highway, you would have seen that purple plume coming out into the sky. And it took days for them to even give a response to what that purple plume even was.
So they didn't even tell us what it was as it was going there.
Mm-mm.
Purple rain that don't nobody want. Go long.
Okay. Clock it. Not the purple rain like Prince. No, no, no. Yeah, exactly. So these are all of these different factors that we need to put into consideration when we want to talk about how we need to transition away from these power plants and look at alternatives such as offshore wind, battery storage, solar power, things that don't extract from the earth but actually make use of its resources that are regenerative and don't add more burden to our environment.
Hmm. Okay, so with the fourth power plant, is it a done deal? I know that there was a lot of pushback against it. What is going on right now? What is the state? Like, and when are they going to start to try to break ground? Are we at the point where they have a date?
So this is the T. Nothing is certain yet, right? So right now we've gone through a lot of processes. So first it started off with the proposal itself. And then from there, and that was over 4 years ago, right? And then from there we were able to pause this and have it stretched out from all of the opposition that we've put against it, right? So we've had the entire city council pass a unanimous resolution against this. We've had Congresswoman McIver against this. We've had the mayor himself say that he's opposed to this power plant, and even to a point where the governor paused the project and put a halt on it so they can have more thought to think of it. But from then, there was also the environmental justice law that we had passed, and we had to wait for the DEP to provide an environmental justice analysis to determine whether or not this would be an added detriment to the community. And unfortunately, the DEP passed the analysis to say that it was approved, and that
Hmm.
was definitely a big detriment to our campaign, and saddening, honestly, to see the DEP make that decision despite all of
And
the
the DEP
opposition.
is the the New Jersey
Environmental
Department of
protection.
Environmental Protection. That's the
Let's
New
stop
Jersey
there.
Department of Environmental Protection, right?
Yes. Now we got to ask a question.
Mhm.
What happened to the DEP that would have them do that?
Who's to say? Who's to say? It was coming to our surprise because they were a part of our support when creating this environmental justice law, because we wanted to give the DEP more power to make decisions on behalf of the people, right? To make sure that we gave them more power to make decisions that would amplify the points that we've brought upon them. We've told
Mm.
PVSC, you don't need a backup power plant. You could look at battery storage as a solution. You could look at offshore wind. You could look at solar. We have experts that can tell you that these are viable options, cheaper options than creating another power plant. And yet, it really begs the question, for me at least, who's profiting off of this, because they have enough money to silence all of these voices, these black and brown voices, mind you, that are saying that this is not what we want as a community, and these are viable options that we can look at, that are not putting up more extractive power plants here. I can't imagine what other avenue to consider aside from that, to be honest with you.
When we're talking about who has the power to do this, right? Like
Hmm.
clearly you're talking about, is it the governor? Is it the state legislature? Like, because there's an environmental protection law
Hmm.
that was passed, right? Like the law that was fought for was to prevent this very thing.
Exactly.
And so the community was supposed to have a say in whether there would be like and whether they would be polluting power plants or sewage plants
And the
put into
community
their
stance was an
communities.
overwhelmingly no.
Hmm.
Right. So who has the power to override all those voices? Who, like, what is the entity? I don't even know how civics works right now in this.
Yeah, so funnily enough, the ultimate decision goes to the Board of Commissioners of Passaic Valley Sewage Commission. And the even more interesting thing is that the Board of Commissioners are appointed by the governor. And on top of that, those appointed officials that are sitting in that position right now are comprised of local elected officials. And that includes our current council president, Lawrence Crump, as well as Luis Quintana. Those are both people that are sitting on the Board of Commissioners right now, as well as a couple of local elected officials and political power hands throughout the state of New Jersey. There's a previous mayor of Fairlawn, other municipalities throughout the state that are represented on this Board of Commissioners, that are ultimately going to have to vote within the next month or so. I mean, honestly, they have yet to put this on their agenda. We've been going to their public meetings monthly for the past 3-4 years, and we've been giving them the same public comments of saying, no, we don't want this. So we don't know when the vote is going to happen. They haven't announced it yet, but we are going to be holding a press conference next Thursday before their next public board meeting, and we're going to have elected officials, including Senator Teresa Ruiz. We're going to have Assemblywoman Pinto Marin, Councilman Silva. All of these folks are going to be at the press conference to speak against this.
So, okay, so this gets more confusing a little bit,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Because what you're telling me, because I'm like, okay, so who's deciding this? Who's the power? Is it the governor? Like, who do we need to fight, right? Is it the governor? Is it it can't be the mayor because the mayor is against this. He's spoken out against this. He's very much been
yes.
against this. Um, but yet it still seems to be pushing forward. So who's pushing it forward? And what you're telling me is there is a commission that has its members appointed by the governor and that commission has multiple local elected officials on it and
Mm-hmm.
people who are in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So has the people on the commission that we know,
Mm-hmm.
have they said no, it's not going to pass?
So, like I was mentioning earlier, the Newark City Council, which includes, Councilman Crump and
Right.
Councilwoman Quintana, they both in the council have opposed it, but sitting in the chair of commissioners, which also includes the mayor Passaic, Hector Laura, as well as is on the board of commissioners. And they've just been sitting in these public board meetings, taking in all of our comments, have not said anything publicly about this. So quite frankly, it's looking like we have to follow the money on this one. It's definitely been unfortunate to see the governor. I actually was able to have an opportunity to ask him why we are pushing through or making it seem like we're moving along with this project or not opposing this project when there's such big public opposition, to which he's basically reiterated the same talking points that PVSC has been using, that they need this project, that this is something that is so important. So it's
But they haven't
definitely.
been able to tell you why. Like you've said,
Mm-hmm.
the plants are, one, they're stronger than ever. Two,
Mm-hmm.
like it was rebuilt, it's stronger than Sandy, and it's faced strong storms stronger than Sandy
Mm-hmm.
since. So the original need, it is factually not true.
Yeah.
And do they call for a counter?
No.
You're like, hey, even the technology is outdated. There's newer technology, there's battery technology where you could have backups for these things. And the battery technology is so good right now that it literally is a substitute and it is much cheaper. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to have another power plant that will pollute here right now. It is unnecessary. Why are you going to spend like like hundreds of millions of dollars?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars on a new power plant when you could spend millions of dollars on batteries that are extensive and that are high tech and that represent the newer forms of technology to back up in case there's a storm even stronger than Sandy and stronger than the other storms that we have that throw things offline. That backup, that those batteries would help. Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing in
So
response to it.
So that's why you're saying y'all getting paid on this
Mm-hmm.
commission. Someone's paying you. Why are you selling us out? Don't you need to have a better form of retirement fund than selling out your people and community?
I mean, quite
Like
frankly.
invest in real estate, buy a apartment building. But you're like, no, I'm gonna sell out my community and build a plant that they don't want because people are gonna pay me. I mean, that is an open like curiosity. I'm not gonna say it's an accusation. You're not accusing him of that, right? Because there's no public level of accusation whatsoever. But what you're saying, I think, is we have we have presented logic. We have presented alternatives. We have evidence-based alternatives that work.
Mm-hmm.
You have given us no other reason for this but to say we want this to go forward.
Mm-hmm.
You have not publicly sufficiently given a reason why that counters that we don't need it because the circumstances have changed and the original infrastructure was rebuilt and supported after Sandy in ways that are already proven good.
Right.
There's better technology, but crickets.
Exactly. Crickets.
Which is why you're like, are you like? It's just really, it's not an accusation, it's a question. Are you getting paid? And if you're not getting paid, give us a reason because we ran out. We're trying to find it. We offer solutions. You're not giving us anything. So we just asking the question, are you getting paid? And you can say no, we're not getting paid, but then give us a good reason.
It's not even it's I would even go beyond whether or not these commissioners are getting paid, because quite frankly, it's hard to say how much of a stake that they have in it when it comes to their vote, because if we're looking at the two folks that we already have that we know are going to be voting for this, and thankfully, the city council's already passed a unanimous decision that they're opposed to it. I'd even say, like, the Passaic Valley Sewage Commission themselves, like, who and what is spearheading this campaign to make it seem like this is such a necessity, and whose money is being who needs to have it spent for this project to happen.
So in other words, it could be a situation where you have lobbyists who are presenting what seems to be like data, and we know that
Mhm.
from the and you are, I mean, you work in you are an environmental justice advocate, so like, I mean, you've experienced, I'm sure, the the data that's been manufactured,
Mhm.
that the data that's by that gets funded by the power companies or by the oil companies, that says, oh, we need this, but it's not, it doesn't stand scrutiny when pressed. And when you press, well, who paid for this, where do they get these conclusions from, can we back them? If you could see that, then you could at least see where the other, you just want to see where the other argument is coming from.
Yeah.
You want that to just to be in front of you, right? If they have other arguments, who is making them? Where is their evidence? Where can we actually address this in the open sun so that we can criticize it?
Mhm. No, exactly that. I mean, it's bewildering in the sense that in 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 other situations, right? The governor has spoken in opposition to other projects that were coming along in the Meadowlands of New Jersey. That was something he was able to just snap his fingers and say isn't happening. But for some reason, when we're in the city of Newark, predominantly Black and brown folks, predominantly foreign-born folks, it seems to be a different tune. It seems to be a different change of conversation, and it's disheartening, to say the least, especially when the governor is making the claims of, like, being the greenest governor in New Jersey, in the country. He's talking about making goals of having clean energy in the next 10 years by 2035. How are we going to be having 100% clean energy when we're still using fossil fuel power plants? It just doesn't make any sense.
And you're talking, wait, so okay, so this is also bewildering.
Mm.
You're telling me that they're investing all this money in older technology, in a fossil fuel power plant, that because, like, you're literally talking about putting 100, that's why you said it's extractive technology, right? Like, this, they want to build a fossil fuel power plant. We're
Mhm.
not talking about innovating wind or power or anything, or wind power, or like just doing other things with solar or whatever. You're talking about a good old fashioned, you're not even talking about nuclear, which would be probably some other issues that we would have there, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but but at least it's not old technology, but there would be some different issues there. We are not wanting to open that.
Mhm.
Um, but you're saying they want to build more fossil fuel, uh, pollution bearing power plant, a fourth one inside one city. Is this precedent? Are there other cities, like Newark is the largest city uh, in the state? Are there other cities that are impacted with this level of power plant?
As far as I'm aware, I can't say for sure. I mean, we are definitely carrying a pretty heavy burden. I can tell you that much for sure. And oftentimes it is in Black and brown communities. Our partners and family that we have in Camden. They just recently had to deal with a metal recycling facility catching on fire, for, I think it was like multiple times in the past couple years. All of these false solutions towards all of the waste that we've had to endure because of corporations producing so much for us to consume, and now we're reaping the havoc from it, honestly. Black and brown communities, frontline communities, environmental justice communities, they've nicknamed they've nicknamed Doremus Avenue, where all of our industry is, as Chemical Corridor.
Wow.
Chemical Corridor, in the same place where we have um our ICE detention center that's about to be put up, in the coming days under this Trump administration. And right down the block from that, we have Essex County Correctional Facility. And I mean, we don't count these people when we're on the census, but they're staying there. They're here in the midst of all of these things and dealing with all of the repercussions of being in the midst of all the emissions of the facilities and the bad smells that are endured because of that. It's definitely an injustice, to say the least, that we need to be more amplified about. We need to talk more about, and really ring the alarms, because if we don't say anything, they're just going to sweep the rug right under us and say we asked for it.
Wow. You said chemical corridor.
Hmm.
And also what you did, and I don't think you did for me, and I don't think that I don't think many people realize this. You equated prisons, the future prisons in terms of ICE, like detention centers, and environmentally hazardous corridors, all in the same place, which
In
is
the
why
same quarter mile.
same quarter mile,
Yeah.
which is why you are calling it, or why it is called Chemical Alley. It is part of what one of our listeners talked about as a sacrifice zone.
Hmm.
And okay, um, next steps.
Yes, let's talk about it. Okay, so I can put in the chat, if it's visible to everyone in the audience today. We're asking folks to join the public board meeting this Thursday, at 12 p.m. And I'll put that in the chat right now. It's bit.ly/PVSC board. And that you can go straight directly to the board of commissioners during their public meeting and ask them to vote no on the construction of this fourth power plant. And you can also, and I have another link for that here too, it's bit.ly/no more PVSC. And I was able to create a page where you can send a letter to the board of commissioners asking them to vote no. It's a pre-written letter, so all you have to do is put your name and your email in it, and it will send a letter to all of them, asking them to vote no.
Okay, and you're saying this is going on next Thursday. Can you give us the date
Yeah,
and can you also put the date and the address? Like where are we going?
it's virtual.
It's a virtual meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's why you gave us this link.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And I put
Thursday,
it in
March
the
6th.
comments that will be both on All Politics Are Local, our Facebook stream and our YouTube stream. We are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Those of you who are on Facebook, please hit like. Those of you who are on YouTube, please subscribe, and please share this link as well. So share with everybody and subscribe. And what should we ask? What should we expect? Oh, thank you. These are all the different meetings, and these meetings are all virtual.
Mm-hmm. It's
Flies on our
important to know
page,
this.
Pastor.
You were saying, Zaid?
Yeah, the flies on our page, and we'll add these links. They came through. The links came through. Right on, Zoe. Chloe, they came through.
Awesome.
Now, Chloe, with the few minutes we got left, two things. One,
Mm-hmm.
that we're talking about this in an environment of Democrats in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Happily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really, but this is going to be exacerbated by a horrible shift to the right on the
Mm-hmm.
national climate. Because
Right.
you know what they're going to do. We're going to make our noise. They're going to pause. But then the right is going to start pushing now
Mm-hmm.
in a way that's even beyond what we're dealing with from what's wishy-washy amongst us in the Democratic Party, right?
Yes.
And it's going to be, it's constant, Amiri Baraka used to refer to it as a Sisyphus syndrome, right? You can push that big rock of oppression all the way up the hill, and just when you think you through with it, they roll it right back down on you. You got to all of, you know. So that dynamic is definitely in play here. I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to say that and wanted your feedback.
Oh no. Was it just me who got frozen? Who saw the frozen?
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm terribly so I have no idea why I'm having this issue with my connection, but I wanted you to comment on the national environment and what that means for environmental justice. And I also wanted you to just give a short version of your story on how you, as a young organizer, a young Black woman.
All right,
Gone.
so the freezing again, right? It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. You were speaking truth. Those
Oh
tech
man.
people. All right, so
That's
what
some
do
of
you
that,
so what do you
that's some
think
of
this
those
is?
millions of dollars.
Right. So what do you think that this is in terms of I think the question is about the national environment that we're in and your own personal story about how you got here. Is that would that be accurate, Said?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry
Okay.
about these connection issues. I have no idea why I'm having them.
We
That's
know
okay.
why. We know why.
I can definitely give you some of my 2 cents at least on the national scale of things. It's definitely coming on down on the local level. We're feeling it. We had so many projects that we wanted to start elevating and put on the forefront with the federal agencies such as the EPA before Trump came into office. We were talking about putting in air monitors, tracking the air quality in the neighborhoods to see how we can take initiatives to improve them. And next thing you know, like half of the staff that we were working with at the EPA were on administrative leave. And thankfully, some of them have come back and we were able to try to get the get the ground on the feet on the ground again. But that was definitely something that was cause of concern, trying to see what the next steps could be, how we can combat all of these things. Since day one, he's been flooding the space, trying to find different ways to um, obliterate all of the progress that we've made over the past 4 years, trying to build back up from what was decimated from his first term. So it's only an uphill battle from here, and I really would like to hope that we'll be able to keep that same momentum and that same energy and fight back from all of these attacks and angles that we're getting hit from. But to give you a bit of context on how I came into the space, I'm from Elizabeth. I was born there, lived in Hillside, and have lived in Elizabeth for almost 10 years again since I moved back. And like I came into the space as someone who actually started falling in love for politics and being so engaged with the community since the first term of Trump's election. When I was a junior in high school, I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. I need to know more. And I went to school for political science and really wanted to find ways to advocate for the people and be a beacon for the people and see how I can be a use to defend for people that don't have a voice for themselves to use. And I was luckily able to go into spaces where I have been able to do that, doing internships for elected officials. And I was like, I might be too radical for this and started organizing. And luckily I was able to find this opportunity with Ironbound Community Corporation and really do a lot of great work and be an agent for change, which is what I've always wanted to be.
Let me pivot very quickly, and I'm praying my connection doesn't go buck wild on me.
Mhm.
Right? You're a daughter of IT.
Yes.
Ironbound Community Corporation has a Black female-led daughter from Trinidad,
Hmm.
right? Leading this whole thing. And one of the issues that ICC is also intimately connected with is the whole question of immigrant justice, right?
Hmm.
We get ready to battle with a whole new this Delaney Avenue, Delaney what ICE coming in with 100 seats. You got to
Hmm.
raise hell the day before on that question, right? I want you to share your thoughts on that as we wind down.
Oh man,
And the food also. Let me put a pin in this.
Mhm.
I'm trying to also internationalize the question, right? Because in those spaces we come from, our countries face being confronted with toxic dumping and environmental justice as well.
Mhm. Yeah, being I think Newark has a special place in my heart for the fact that we have such a melting pot of people and cultures. I'm so grateful to be able to learn the history of Newark. We have the effects of putting out all of these things into other countries as well. Newark was actually a place where they were producing Agent Orange during the Vietnam War, and now we have a Superfund site that's 17 miles long, the Passaic River, because they were dumping that Agent Orange, that dioxin, into the water after sending it out to Vietnam for generational trauma to be ensued over there. But to talk about the ways that we can be impactful and garner more community, I think it's been so essential to be able to get on the ground and talk to people, see what they need, what are the resources that we can provide, the mental health resources, the resources for folks to be in touch with their parents, with their families, trying to prevent separations from happening. I think that it's so important to be able to know who your community is and how to rally together during these crazy ass times, to say the least.
Good, 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 good. Uh, Jonathan, you look like you were talking. You were muted.
Yeah, the thing that I was thinking about also when you're talking about the the when you're talking about just your history and your background and what brought you into this, there it seems like in the last 4 years there was a lot of good work done,
Hmm.
and it seems like the criticism of the Obama administration was that you had all the support, but there was a lot of grassroots things that you ignored.
Mm.
In the Biden administration, what I'm hearing from different activists in different quarters is that the people on the ground listened, funded programs, made a concerted effort to fund community activists who are actually doing this work. But most people in our community, or I would I would dare say that there are a lot of people in our community that have no idea what the Ironbound Community Corporation does,
Mm.
that they were actually being helped by the Biden administration, or that or what the Office of Violence Prevention did and how they receive both state and federal funding, right? Like that how that there was a national program that came out of the vice president's office. Like it seems like we are recognizing all of the different things that were done in the last 4 years, where the federal government and the state government, in many places, connected with local activists. Was there a breakdown in communication between the people who are doing the work on the ground, the different community groups, the different activist groups that were fighting for environmental justice, that were getting like us to try to measure air quality in our cities, and the people who were voting?
And the people who were what? Say that last part.
Voting, the
Mm.
voting public, the people
Mm.
who would say there's no difference between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. Democrats are Democrats. They don't do anything. They don't like there when you ask many ordinary people within our community who vote, who have the power to vote, they would vote third party or not vote or flirt with Republican voting because they're saying there is nothing happening.
Mm.
We don't see a difference. Is there a disconnection between activists who work with the EPA and who receive federal dollars to do really good work that help the communities and the communities that we serve?
Jonathan,
A clarification question, Chloe.
hmm I it's so funny that you ask me this, quite frankly, because I am actually ready to dedicate my life to this question. I have felt through my organizing, I have personally seen that disconnect between communities on the ground and the elected officials and the federal agencies that are meant to represent them. And I really want to spend a dedicated amount of time making sure that I can bridge that gap. I think it starts off with understanding the background between how all of this work even gets done. Something as intricate as an environmental justice law having such an impact on Black and Brown communities that folks don't even know about, or even to the fact of knowing who and what legislative and local agencies to reach out to with your different issues that you have. You know why you need to reach out to your councilman for X, Y, and Z, or whether or not you should be calling the Department of Environmental Protection whenever you smell something bad in the area. Like, are you aware of those things and how to utilize those resources? Those are the issues that I think we need to be bringing into the forefront. Disconnections between understanding who your elected officials are and how they're supposed to be representing you and what you need to be advocating for and what are the lanes in which you need to be doing that. I think that's definitely the main, and if not the biggest issue, being able to be informed on civics. We have a civics problem in America, quite frankly. I think that's definitely what it is. And
Very
and
deliberate. Very
yeah,
deliberate. Out of
it's
fear of what we did in the 1960s.
mhm.
And yeah, so we definitely are going to have you back on to talk more about this and politics and making this connection between
Mhm.
the voting public and the people who are fighting for their interests. Because I think that many people made decisions in the booth or made decisions not to go to the booth
Mhm.
because they thought that there was a disconnect.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, you are literally fighting for people's lives.
Absolutely.
And you're like, there is a difference on both a federal, a state, a local level. All these elections matter because all these elections approve things that can kill you, like
Mhm.
literally end your lives. You will get cancer, you will die, your family will die because the people with money and power don't care. They will put you in a place, they will put things in the place where you live that will kill you, and they don't care.
And I want to make a specific distinction here, and I want to be very clear in this statement here. I'm not saying that with Democrats in these positions, life is going to be easy. I'm just saying the
We
work is
know
going
better.
to be easier. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It's going to be easier than it would be to have with Republicans in these seats. I definitely want to make that very clear and distinctive in that comment.
And that's probably true from the earlier conversation because everybody we're fighting to not get this power plant built in Newark is a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are all Democrat positions. They're all controlled by Democrats. This does not mean like it doesn't matter, but it does mean that you have to fight them. That's
Mm-hmm.
part of the struggle. And there are local elections that are coming up. There are gubernatorial elections that are coming up, right? There, like all these seats are going to be up for grabs. And that is also where you make your voice known. I didn't even know until you got on that the people, and we've covered this issue quite a few times, even on the show. And I did not know that it is just that commission that's going to be making such a monumental decision.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Our
just
local council
crazy.
people, our local council people, people that have such a low turnout in these voter elections, might I add.
Mm.
We have such a low voter turnout in the city of Newark that we have neighboring municipalities having a higher turnout combined than our one
Smaller
city.
municipalities.
Okay,
Mm.
smaller ones, a larger turnout than
Right.
we have in our entire city.
Wow.
The great Charles Barron would agree
That's
with you
right.
1,000%. I was just on with him. His show comes on right before ours on WBAI, and
Mm,
he was a council person. Him and his wife back and forth over 20 years that really lit up some fire for East New York in a way
mm,
that it should be a textbook study for any any black or brown person considered running for office, quite frankly, right?
Right.
But unfortunately, because of the careerism and opportunism among us, even in the ranks of the Democratic Party, we're not getting down like that the way we should. But your point is well taken. We got to ask you the ritual question now. Right?
Exactly. Hey,
Go ahead. Good. Okay, come on, jump on in.
Two things. One is, can she repeat that turnout again? She said there's more people that turn out for the environmental election. You were saying?
No, for the voters, like when it comes to the school board elections, our voter turnout is like 5%. Okay. And then going on to the bigger elections, with, for example, presidential, we have a smaller turnout than our 3 neighboring cities combined.
And my second question is that have you guys lost funding, or you having issues getting funding now that Trump is in office?
So, luckily, as of now, as far as I'm aware, we have been gracious enough to not have that concern. We definitely were in the weeds when everyone started disappearing, and we weren't sure whether or not our funds would be getting dispersed. But as of right now, we're doing okay, thankfully.
Okay, because one of the reason I asked you that question is because the mayor had said when he was here, he was saying he had made a phone call to the to anti-violence office because they were getting, Keisha Uri did, the deputy mayor, so there was an actual office that was funding these these anti-violence organizations, and he said he called the very next day after Trump was inaugurated. That office was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's good to know. The third question is that we had a sister on, I forget her name, Zaid, from the South Ward, who is an environmental justice.
Kim Gaddy.
Yeah. Are you connected to her in any kind of way?
Yes, Kim Gaddy is beloved. Miss Gaddy, our Pisces queen. Her birthday's on Monday. Shout out to Miss Gaddy. I've been graced with her presence and getting to know her. And we do amazing work together as well.
Well, one of the things that we definitely should do is that have you both on, John. I think that next time we invite the sister on,
We can do that. We
want
can
to
definitely do
dedicate to have both of them on and kind of do some kind of education thing around this, right? Like dedicate, perhaps a good 30 minutes, if not an hour, to try to educate our people on why this is important.
And just saying, Ed, you did. Donna won't be able to be here tonight. She called a little earlier, but Ed, you clearly took her place because right when we were getting ready to end the segment and move on to the guests who are backstage, you jumped on with a different question. So shout out to Donna, and Donna. I hope I hope you're feeling better, and don't worry though, because Ed got you covered. Ed got you covered.
I was being patient, letting you and Zaid. I was trying to hold my 3 questions.
And to clarify one point, Ed was referring to the Office of Violence Prevention that was in the Justice Department.
Yes.
Newark Office of Violence Prevention is still functioning. I just want to make that clear. Right?
He's talking about the Federal Office of Violence Prevention. Was it out of the Office of the Vice President or out of the Justice Department or both?
Justice Department.
Okay.
Yeah. It was the one that Biden and Harris was funding, right? And remember, I mean, it was headed to do some tremendous work, even more, because the mayor said
across
that
the country, right?
Did get from them. They now have to try and hold on to that money, hopefully for the next 2 years, until we can get a different Congress in there, right? To see how we do that, because you can't, just like the environmental justice work is important, the anti-violence work in our community is important, right? And so, but we need to give, in my mind, Jonathan and Zaid, we need to give, Gotti and this sister, more time, more of a stage, and let's try to educate our people, particularly on how important.
You got to tell me twice.
Yes,
you heard that.
And of course,
right,
I got you,
and we have the final question. We have Zaid.
You want me to answer? Okay. Well, cool. Well, Howie,
Yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah,
Chloe,
of
this,
course.
you've been on before. This is the a hip hop political talk show. In terms of how you get yourself going and rolling and whatnot. Who's your
Mhm.
favorite artist, or who are you particularly rocking to get you through what you got to do in day out?
Woo. You know, I am also a yoga teacher. So I am particularly proud that I have every playlist is an R&B playlist because I'm trying to bring my black people towards the yoga. Okay. I need more of our melanated folks to be stretching. Right
You
now
know, it
I've
started in
had
ancient Egypt.
okay, period. I've put a lot of Maxwell on my playlists. I've had a lot of and I want to shout out to Angie Stone, rest in peace to her.
Yeah.
So she's definitely at the forefront of my mind right now to answer your question.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Well, we definitely got to have you back, folks. Hold the 12th, Thursday the 12th. Got to turn the volume up, right? I want to find out, and we'll figure this out between now and then. I want to find out the contact information of every last one of them commissioners. We need to blitz their behind.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Looking
yeah.
forward to seeing y'all there. Thank you so much for having me.
All right,
Thank
keep
you.
your head up,
Thank
brother. We
you.
appreciate you.
All right. Bye bye.
Now we got we know this is and I pray to God that my connection does not go buck wild the way it has, because this is another special segment, but it's
Hmm.
especially special because we have one of our most cherished elders who is on our walk on her walk with us at a time in her life where she is finally getting to receive her flowers for a long distance run that has been hugely special among us. Tomorrow at the Montclair Public Library, there's going to be a book signing for the book, The 9 o'clock Whistle. And I'm trying to put my hands on mine as I'm talking to this. Mine is autographed already. All right. The 9 o'clock Whistle, which is an incredible story of important civil rights protest activity that blew up in Enfield, North Carolina, in and around the time, and inspired much by the activity around the epic March on Washington, right? And Enfield was a Klan town and a sundown town, and the mother of the movement in the
I think Zaid froze. He was trying to give you an introduction uh,
Yes.
with regard to the book.
yeah,
Zaid froze
and
for
I
a minute.
need y'all to talk as much as you can because I don't know why I'm having connection issues. I just wanted to salute the mother of that awesome protest activity, uh, Queen Mother Willa Cofield, who's going to be feted tomorrow. And joining us is Kellia Sweatt, one of our community mothers from Montclair, loud and proud, who gets down with people like Omar Johnson. So this ain't going to be no fluff thing, right? Yeah, it's going to be no academician who ain't got no ties to the community, boring people, right? It's
Yes,
going to be
peace, peace.
ripe and raw. And Marcella Simaderis, who was trying to get in, Marcella, who's with the People's Organization for Progress, and Marcella also led the charge to have Ms. Cofield honored by the National Educators Association, by the Teachers Union, right? And I'm hoping she can get on. It look like she's having the same connection issues that I am having, right? But let me start with and Ed, I need you to back me up with this, with my connection issues, right? First, Miss Willows, it's always an honor to be in your company, ma'am, right? I have to say Miss Cofield is in my hometown of Plainfield now. When she came north, she came to Plainfield, right? That means a lot to me personally, also, right? Uh, but I want you to take us back, man, because folks can't really. I mean, this is stuff that has happened in my lifetime, right? And they
Hmm.
call me Baba Zahid, but I ain't a dinosaur yet, right? Uh, but I really want folks to appreciate just what was the world like. That was the world of Enfield, North Carolina, when you were in that moment, that 1963 moment, you, your husband, your community, your students, what did it mean to be in a sundown town, and how your community was trying to figure out how to navigate that territory. And at the same time, we're seeing the explosion of protest activity all over the country that would come to or ahead with the March on Washington. That's a big open question, right? But this that'll walk us through what we're getting ready to do.
Well, Enfield is a small town, fewer than 3,000 people in northeastern North Carolina. It's in a what was a farming area. And a part of the role of Enfield was to supply the farm supplies. Many of the stores downtown served the farmers around the town. And in 1963, there were many Black people who lived on farms, who lived on the larger farms, on smaller farms. There were a sizable number of Black farmers who owned their land, but most people worked for someone else. I think the going rate in 1963 was $3 a day. If you made $3 a day, you were doing well. There was a lot of poverty. And of course, Black people in Enfield lived in the areas around the downtown and the better kept, the more attractive parts of the town were inhabited by white people. But there were neighborhoods, Blacks around the edge of the town. And it was notorious for that we had no paved streets in our communities. We had no sidewalks. We had many houses were not even served by sewage. It was a privilege to have sewage, to have an inside bathroom. So there was a lot of poverty. We had a Black doctor. We had as a result of the fact of segregation, we had a fairly healthy small business community that was basically Black. And my family was rooted in that part of the town. We had, as I said, we had a doctor, but health care was medical care especially, was hard to come by. And one of the things that happened in that day, if you went to see a doctor, you sat in a separate waiting room. If you went in the downtown stores, you were not treated with courtesy always. There were no jobs for Black people in the stores. There were no Black policemen. White people held all the government positions. There was a feeling that there was a belief that there had never been Blacks involved in the government. Of course, we found that that was not right, that there had been during Reconstruction. In fact, so many government officials had served in that day, so many Blacks were elected to the legislature that it was called the Black Second, the congressional district. The second congressional district was referred to as the Black Second. But in the day in 1963, we were unaware of that history. So to live in Enfield in 1963 was to live a very narrow, focused life. But yet in our community, there were institutions like our schools and our churches that were well supported. The small businesses did well. There were small grocery stores, barbershops, many hairdressing salons, garages, and they served us as best they could, and many of them did well. So I guess the other thing that I should mention was that the whole area was changed when the interstate highway came through a few years later. So much of the business derived from the tourist trade, that people traveling south use Highway 301. And so the restaurants and the service stations and the tourist homes, the motels, all depended on the tourists, on the traffic. Of course, you couldn't, in that day, if you were Black, you were not able to go into the restaurants that serve the tourist trade, the white restaurants. You could not stay in the motels. You might not be able, in our town, you couldn't even use the bathroom at the local service station. So it was a very divided community in a racial way. And as I said, there was widespread poverty. And very few people voted. Black people were not encouraged. In fact, they were pretty much prevented from registering and voting because in that day there was a literacy test that you had to pass. And Black people were subjected to all kinds of examinations when they went to try to register. So it's a fairly bleak landscape in many ways. Some of the civil rights people who came to our town after the movement started said that the area reminded them very much of the Mississippi Delta, that it had the same kind of feel and many of the same problems. So that's a little sketch, I guess, of our community.
So in that climate, then, how was it that you and your husband, the late Reed Johnson, right, would come to
Yes.
be inspired to take the bold steps and initiatives that you did?
Well, my husband was from Richmond. He grew up in a city, and I guess he knew of a different kind of community. And things were happening in the South in 1963. We had had the sit-ins in the late 50s. The college students had become militant. People were challenging segregation in various places. And we read about these things and we watched these things on television. And I don't know, my husband did not tell me how he actually thought about it, but I think he and my father got together and made the decision that he should try to file to run for commissioner in Enfield. But he just told me one morning that he was going to run for the commissioner. And of course, it frightened me because I knew that I thought there would be resistance, and there was. But his mind was made up, and that's what he did. And that just lit a fire in our community that was waiting to burn.
It's incredible stuff. It's incredible stuff. Marcella, I'm going to turn to you because I know both of us have connection issues, and while I got you, I want to lift you up because I really appreciate what you're doing tomorrow and what you've done in terms of getting recognition that Miss Willa so incredibly deserves. Tell us how and what you did with the NEA to get Miss Willa recognized, and what that response was like, and why you felt it was important for you to do.
Well, meeting Miss Willa is one of the best things that's happened to me in my life. She's really helped me with this activism. She's like a rose with a thorn. Like, you wouldn't know how mighty she is, but she's a soldier. She's a warrior, and people don't often think of that when they see her. I don't know if it's because she's older or because she's mild mannered, but she really was a historical figure in her hometown, and I wanted to help elevate that. And it was easy. It was very easy. First of all, she was recognized by the National Education Association in 1967. I believe, though, it was called the Abraham Lincoln. Let me look at my. It's
That's right.
the Abraham Lincoln Award.
Yeah. Human rights, the Abraham Lincoln Human
Yes.
Rights.
So she was recognized long before me because she actually ended up getting fired because she was empowering her students to register to vote and partake in the demonstrations and protests. So she ended up suing or putting in a complaint against the school district, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And it's because of women like her that I'm able today to be emboldened and agitate, because if it wasn't for women like Dr. Cofield that did that when it was much more difficult, when you do it today, you're risking your job, but when you did it back then, you were risking your life. So I felt like I owed it to her. And then when with the NJEA award, Mrs. Dr. Willa is very sharp. I hardly had to do any work. She provided all her biographical information. She writes a lot. She writes very, very well. She corrects some of the stuff I write. So all I had to do was just write about my experience and the impact that she had on me, and then include, the biographical information she provided. And upon doing that, I submitted it to the NJEA Women's Committee, and they unanimously chose her, which is really unbelievable, because I'm not one of the favorite persons in NJEA. So when I do things, there's usually people trying to put up resistance, but she's so phenomenal, they couldn't. So thank you, Dr. Cofield.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I echo that. Thank you, Marcella, because that, and some of us know, your battles that you've been through, and then some of us know what it's like to be an agitating outsider, right? Getting resistance where you should be getting acceptance and getting things done. Now, Kellia, I got to bring you into this, right? Because you've been throwing down in that town for a minute for our babies out there, all right, and nothing's been quiet about your presence in that community. What does it mean for you to have the task? And this is a very sensitive task. When I get tasked with stuff like this, I go right to the prayer rug. I go right to the Orishas and the ancestors. I got to get myself together, here and here before I even go to the research, right? But so what I just want you, in terms of your makeup, right? What does it mean to you to have to be tasked with leading in such an uplifting conversation with such a cherished elder tomorrow?
Privilege. That's what it means to me. I'm excited. I was very appreciative when the opportunity was brought to me. Queen Mother, scholar, Dr. Cofield is a gift among us. And, it's an honor when our elders actually take the time to allow us to sit at their feet and learn, but also to have created this great body of work to make sure that we can continue to share this information and to teach our babies, because we already know what time it is right now in this lovely country that we live in. We know what time it is right now. So it's critical that we have elders and people like Dr. Cofield who will share this qualitative information with us, in addition to her scholarly approach. So it means a lot. I feel honored, and I carry a lot of my father's energy, and it sometimes confuses people, because I'm definitely all woman, but I really am my father's daughter. So I'm actually feeling very protective right now. I feel very protective. Um, I actually jacked up this proverb the other night, and hopefully I'll get it right tonight. But I'm sure you know what it is, Baba Zaid, which is when children are playing with a string of beads and the string breaks, not one bead gets lost. That's how I feel. That's how I feel, that everyone has an opportunity right now to receive these jewels, to receive these jewels. So I'm also really privileged that she's coming to my little hometown where I'm born, raised, and stayed. As you know, I've been out here in these trenches for a very, very long time. To the point that sometimes people get it a little bit twisted and confused. They kind of think I work in these schools. I don't. I'm just all up in these schools. Because in our culture, we know that all of our children belong to all of us. So anywhere our children are, especially if they're going to be educated and, um, socialized into this craziness, then we have to put that hedge of protection around them. So that's what I've been doing for a long time. So when I learned, I've always heard Marcella, Miss Willa, Miss Willa, Miss Willa, and she's always talking about Miss Willa. And I was hyped. And then I saw some of the documentaries. And that's when I realized that this was Sankofa, right? Because of how much work she has put in, the experience that she has, and for me to have the privilege of being the one to sit across from her or beside her and have this talk and this conversation. So that's what it means to me. That's what it means to me. And I'm going to, just like you said, I'm prayed up, and I'm going to continue to be, God willing, because I want to handle her, or not handle, I want to cover her. I want to cover her appropriately, which is with the utmost respect.
That's beautiful.
Now I want to come back. I got to come back to this because I want this, because context matters, right? The 9 o'clock whistle literally was a whistle to the Negroes. You got to get your behind out of that part of town, right? 9 o'clock is Enfield was a sundown town. And this epic battle had a lot of dimensions to it, voting rights and a lot of other things, educational rights, labor rights, whatnot. But, this was also some very dangerous stuff, right? Sundown towns were dangerous spaces to be in if you didn't make that curfew, right? So I wanted you to take a minute and really just tell us what it meant to live in a sundown town, how dangerous it was, and what it means to have transformed that space with justice so that it no longer exists. Now, I'm saying that guardedly because around the time the first book signing went down, there's a case down in New Orleans, Super Bowl time, right? Brother named Glenn Foster, used to be with the Saints, got killed in Alabama in a sundown town. And you would look at a story like Enfield's story and think all of that is a thing of the past. Not necessarily, right? Not necessarily. So, Miss Willa, you got to, with the few minutes we have left, really tell us what it meant to live under the ghost and the terror of a sundown town.
Well, we really found out how dangerous it was when we challenged the segregation and the fact that we were barred from participating in the political system. We, at one point, most of the adult men that I knew were armed because it was just that dangerous. Our house was not attacked, but we got threatening phone calls telling us that it would be burned down and telling my husband to take his name off the list to run for public office. At one point, our house was guarded by men in the neighborhood. So there was a lot of fear. The Klan was very, very active. They burned the first cross that I ever heard of being burned in that town was burned soon after I was born. I was born in a hospital. It's just a remarkable thing to me that in that day, Black people were so progressive, even in a little town like Enfield, that they had a hospital. And instead of the white people supporting that hospital and helping it to grow and thrive, the Klan ran the doctor out of town. And I understand we were told by the doctor's daughter that her father saw this cross burning. He got them in the car. She said he ran over the cross as they left the house, and they never came back to Enfield again. So there was a lot of fear when the Klan began burning crosses, but also it motivated people to want to register and vote. In 1928, 29, when that cross was burned, it sent fear, a chill through the community. But when the cross was burned in 1963, it fired people up. It made them begin to decide that they were going to register. And they were begging my husband to take them down to the registrar's office, so that it was dangerous territory. We heard of lynchings that had occurred in and around the community in the 60s that had happened before. So we always knew that there was a lot of danger in attacking, in trying to become active politically and to change things.
Loaded, absolutely loaded. Now my brothers are quiet, and I'm surprised because I know that they are absolutely engrossed with what you're saying, right? But it's really really heavy stuff. But the ultimately under all of this, and I have to just say this editorially, is that it didn't. The only reason why it changed is because people like you made it change.
That's right.
Y'all made it.
And I'm quiet. I'm quiet for two reasons. One is because, I think she's a living griot, right? And that we have an opportunity, right? We have an opportunity as children, right, to sit at the feet of this lady. And I'm honored that Mother Cofield is still alive, right? Yeah. For two reasons. One is that I get an opportunity to learn and hear directly from her. Yes. Two, I think that, I'm blessed indeed by the Holy Spirit, right? Because not only does she have the Spirit of God with her, she carried the spirit of her ancestors and her husband who had lived through that political period, right? Yes. And so I'm intrigued, but I really want to hear about, because as you know, our show is titled All Politics Are Local, right? Mm-hmm. I'm extremely interested in how do we take, Mother Cofield, and be able to, use her full value to in some way inspire young people in our state with the coming election of the mayor for governor. How do we take some of those funds and begin to take Mother Cofield around the state of New Jersey and have her tell that story about the literacy test, so that they can begin to value voting, right? Because I mean, you literally had to have black people who were educated to educate black folks on how many jelly beans were in a jar,
Right,
so that they knew how to answer all of those questions.
PhD ain't gonna help you with that either.
Huh?
Go ahead.
So you needed to be educated with that. And what I'm saying is that young people need to understand, right, the value of voting and what that means in its relationship to power.
right.
And so
And
that's why in this
go ahead,
moment,
finish.
you say your brothers are quiet. I'm quiet because I don't want to not hear. I don't want to miss anything she
I know
says.
that's right.
Right. I want to be able to drink everything in, and then I want to be able to, as I say, figure out how do we use her in this moment. My man of God always says he wants to pour out so that when he goes home to be with the Lord, there's nothing left. Now that I am aware of Mother Cofield, I want to make sure that we find a way that she pour into us, so when she go home to be with the Lord, there's nothing left.
Right. Well,
Today, also, by the way, I gotta say this, and 100% in. Today is the 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday.
Wow.
May 7th, 1965, right? Selma police brutally attacked a civil rights march and beat the hell out of a whole lot of people.
right.
John Lewis led the march, the late
Yeah.
great John Lewis, got his skull cracked in Bloody
Mhm.
Sunday. I mean, it was, so the battle for the ballot is bathed in our blood, and the apathy that you're referring to is something that is, looking at an elder like this and then appreciating struggle like you just described is just unacceptable and unfathomable, right? So owning our responsibility, how do we shift the space that we're in now?
Wow.
Well, one
And
of
as
the
I just froze.
Mother Cofield, go ahead. You
were
no,
saying.
I was just going to say that one of the things, that's one of the reasons for doing the documentary and writing the book, that I'm at the point now where I don't have so much physical stamina to do a lot of traveling and a lot of public speaking, but I tried to put the experience into the documentary and into the book. And so if we can encourage, I wrote the book with the help of two of my students, but we tried to make it readable and accessible so that students could read it in their classes and people could read it, families could read it in their homes. So that's one way I think that we could be, that my story can be learned by widespread, by people all over the state.
Yes, ma'am. The part that is important, Mother Cofield, is that when I say, for young people, right, and now with technology, you don't have to travel. We can actually do what we're doing right here,
That's
and
right.
students from around the country will get an
We're all
opportunity.
paying attention to this show tonight. That's
We'll
right.
get an opportunity, right, to be able to talk to you, have you tell them the living truth, because we got a president that tells living lies, but you to tell them the living truth based around, right, this whole political violence, right, or as you said, the political system that your husband was operating in at the time, right?
Yes.
And so if we can figure out a way that we can begin, and we know through technology we can do that, right? To be able to say, as this June primary is coming, and do something around the country and allocate that to be able to go and have these schools say, well, let's do a 30-minute live in living color with Mother Cofield. So not only can you hear from her, see her book, right? But let's have young people literally ask you a question, because we had an elder brother come on you know, Brother Payne, who is the uncle of the former congressman. He
Mm.
came on and told us about a book when they were learning how to read, that
Mm.
that the books they were reading had black sambos and all of that in there
Yes.
when they
Yes.
when
I
they
love
were
that.
reading, right? And for us to hear that, and what I need you to appreciate, Mother Cofield, I'm an educated black man, right?
Yes.
I have
Yes.
never seen a book like that. I have never read a book like that. I've
Mhm.
heard about it, but to
Yes.
hear that from a 90-year-old black man tell me that, not
Yes.
only did it break my heart, but it had me see myself in a whole different light.
Yes.
That none of what I've been told has actually been the actual facts.
Yes.
It's been their story,
Yes.
but it was
Absolutely.
not the actual facts.
Right.
You represent the actual facts, Mother Cofield.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I
Well,
want to
I'm
say that I'm honored, and so I'm quiet. I'm a guy who can talk. I'm a guy who do that for a living.
mm-hmm.
When I'm sitting at the feet of a griot, I want to make sure that I'm able to take it all in like a sponge.
Well,
I thank you and I
I'm
appreciate you.
happy that.
And I'm interested in figuring out how do we do that. So, I'm a talk to Zaid, but I really want to zero in on that whole voting and that whole literacy test.
Yes. Yes. There
And that
was, to belong to the NAACP in the 50s in communities like in Phil was to risk losing your job. And there was a group in a neighboring community that they had an NAACP chapter, and it became very dangerous for them to continue. So they changed the name of their organization. It became some kind of church affiliated organization, and they carried on their business. They met regularly, but they didn't meet as the NAACP
Mm,
because it was too dangerous. And there was one woman who belonged to that organization who tried to vote to register 7 or 8 times, and she finally was registered. So
mm.
people had real stories and real hardships, but we survived.
I want to lift up two POP members who've been eating up the chat. Queen Mother Mako sends us love and a shout out, and the great Anjanetta Robinson, the former treasurer,
Yeah.
who was Miss Cofield's personal assistant.
Yes.
I'm very proud to say. I've been eating up the chat with a whole lot of love for you, man.
Yeah.
Right?
One thing I
Thank you.
Go ahead,
Thank
John.
both of you.
One thing I learned, because I was also reading up some stuff as well. I didn't know that teacher tenure existed to protect people who did what you did, like teachers who
Yeah.
had a private life outside, who did activism, who would be fired for their work as you were attacked
Yes.
uh, in North Carolina. Can you tell us
Yes. That's.
about that case and what led
I
to that Supreme
can.
Court
I
case?
can. Teacher tenure was really unknown, but most of the southern states, after the decision of 1954, the Topeka versus Brown versus Topeka, Kansas, most of the southern states changed their teacher contracts so that you only worked for 1 year. So that when I went to get my contract for 1964, the principal simply told me, "Oh, you don't have one." So they didn't have to fire me. I just didn't have a contract. But that was one of the things that my case against the officials of Halifax County, they stopped that. The case, it has been said that it saved thousands of jobs because the southern states had all invented strategies to keep everything as it was, despite the law. And that was one of the ways they discouraged any kind of racial movement. They were determined they were going to keep their schools just as they wanted them, all white. And the fact of tenure was not even relevant because your contract was just for 1 year. And that was almost all the southern states said that.
Wow. And that your case even went before the Supreme Court. I know you've been interviewed about that many times, but what was that like
So
in
many
terms
levels.
of
Well,
Yes.
just
it was appeal to the Supreme Court. The decision in my favor came from the Fourth Circuit Court. And that the other side appealed to the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court remanded the case to the Fourth Circuit. So they supported the ruling of the Fourth Circuit. And the terms of that, I had asked that my job be restored, and I had sued for damages. And that had been used as a way, we pretty much knew that I would be fired. After the big confrontation in downtown Enfield, 3 days after the March on Washington, we pretty much knew that the two teachers who were in that movement were so vulnerable that the superintendent went to the school of the other teacher, and he had a pretty rough experience at that school. So he came to my school, but he never called me in. But even just when he made the first visit, we began preparing to go to court because we knew that it was pretty clear that one of us, both of us, would be fired. So when they refused to give me a contract, the lawyers were able to. We had lawyers on call, and they were able to put together a complaint. In 30 days, they went into court. And that was the last of, that was in early July. And that was the time, on that day, the newspapers carried news of the suit on July 4th. And ironically, that was the day, the night, when the largest cross that was burned in the area was burned in front of my house. It was 17 feet tall. And it was a clear message that I had overstepped the bounds.
Can't make that up. Can't make that up. Can't make that up. I know we're up against the clock. So Jonathan, I'm gonna give you that. You take the honor of winding us down, but you can't make this up. Just want to restate that tomorrow, 12 o'clock at the Montclair Public Library, the book signing for Ms. Cofield. The book is The 9 O'Clock Whistle. We have been talking about a film. There's also a documentary film that needs to be better utilized. It's a critically acclaimed film by the same title, telling the same story, right? Kellia will be leading the conversation tomorrow. Please consider investing in this important gem of our history and our struggle.
as it is an honor, of course, to have you on. An honor to have you on. We always ask our ritual questions, and well, we have so many other questions to ask you as well, but we're not going to. We'll have you back on. But the question that we ask all of our guests are: who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group, or who do you listen to for inspiration? You can answer in any way that you want. Like it can be a hip hop artist if you listen, or it could be anyone who gives you inspiration, especially in times like these.
Well, I've been on your show before, just before we showed the documentary,
Yes.
and you asked that question then. So I should have been prepared, but I forgot. I forgot. If I ever come on again, I promise you I will have an answer. Okay.
But who do you like to listen to for yourself?
That's right. That's right.
Who fires up
It-
the great
it
Miss
doesn't
Willa
have to be
Cofield?
listen.
anybody's music.
I don't listen to the radio much anymore. I usually listen to talk shows when I listen. I used to listen to WBAI like almost 24 hours a day, but I gave that up. So I don't even know the name of any hip hop artist. Let's see. Well, I like the music that goes back to the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was growing up, I like the Nat King Coles and those people of that era. I was, a pretty normal young person, I guess, and I was very much I liked music and dancing, and I talk about that in the book. When I went to Hampton in 1944, Lionel Hampton was big, and Hamp's Boogie Woogie was the song that everybody loved. And I talked about dancing to Hamp's Boogie Woogie when the whole place would go up, when his orchestra would have this rhythmic beat that they would start singing it. And the thing was, the dancers had to stomp on the floor. And we did that, and I didn't miss a beat. So I have to say, if you ever invite me again, I'm going to have a good answer.
No, you had a good answer.
That is a good answer.
You had a great answer, right? You were
That's a
talking about
great
Lionel
answer.
Hampton. You were talking about the music you listen to. I love it.
Now, these young folks gonna have some different answers, though.
Yeah.
I
These
know.
daughters and these granddaughters gonna have some different answers.
I know they.
But I liked your answer.
Thank
I
you.
loved it.
I did the best I could.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, I think for all of us, I mean, it is absolutely incredible. We have only seen this stuff in books. We've only seen this stuff on television. But for you to tell us that you were actually one of those dancers and that, I mean, this is an absolute blessing from God. So, we are, we represent a group of young people who understand your valuability, right? And we understand clearly, there's a saying that said, "Do you understand the words that are out of my mouth?" No, we understand, and we're very clear. So we thank you for what you just shared. The boogie woogie. I've seen that and heard all about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a song, Hamp's Boogie.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you. And Hampton, Lionel Hampton came to Hampton when I was a freshman.
Yeah.
He was
Chitlin Trail, all the musicians.
and so did Duke Ellington.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Kellia, Marcella, what say y'all?
I just wanted to mention really quick. I wrote it in the chat though, because I shared the flyer with a lot of all my networks. And there's an older woman from Patterson. She was like, "What is that book about?" Because when I went to South Carolina, I remember there was I forgot the name of the town, she said, but it was a town in South Carolina. She said, there was a whistle like that went off, and my grandparents would hurry up and rush me into the car, and everything changed. And she said that they had to send her home because she didn't know how to respond, or she wasn't responding according to how they thought she should respond. So they actually put her on a train home all by herself as a little girl because they didn't think it was safe enough for her to stay. So I didn't get to mention that to Miss Willa, but I wanted to mention that.
That's so interesting. I wonder if it was Enfield. But one thing I wanted to mention is about Montclair. I had an aunt who lived in Montclair, and the first time I came north, I was 16 years old. And we visited my aunt. She lived on Elmwood Street. I don't know whether you know where that is.
But I used to live on it too.
Who did? You did?
Yeah.
She lived in a big brown house on Elmwood Street. And And I found one person since I have been in New Jersey who knew her, but she lived to be, I'm told she lived to be 170 years old.
Wow.
So I hope that's right, because
Wow.
I hope, I don't know that I want to live that long, but at any rate, so I have a connection with Montclair. The first time I ever went to a park, I think, was the park in Montclair.
Hmm.
Wow.
Wow. I just pulled up a list.
Before, can I answer that question?
Yes,
Oh, yes,
ma'am.
absolutely.
I'm just going to say that my favorite, because I'm old school and I still play it to this day. I pump it all the time. I'll just say, this is protected. This is protected by the red,
Red,
the black, and the green.
That's
With
right.
Oh,
the
Ex-clan led by
So,
Lumumba Carson, the son of Sarah Carson.
yes, X-Clan is my favorite.
Yeah.
Good stuff, y'all. Good stuff. Cherish this moment. Cherish this moment. That's right. The ancestors are pleased. We already got some of my shades up in this chat too. Right on it, all of that. Share. Oh, right. Great, y'all. So tomorrow, y'all know what to do. 12 noon, Newark, Montclair Public Library. I'm so used to saying the Newark Public Library. Montclair Public Library, 12 noon. Get the book. Sit at the foot of a legendary elder and freedom fighter. Give her them flowers while she can smell them, right? And taking all that knowledge and that legacy of struggle that we all need to lean on at this particular critical moment, like we haven't had to lean on in quite some time, right? Thank you, Mother Cofield, right?
thank
To
you.
my
Thank all of you.
comrades, right? And Kellia and Marcella, thank you both for what you do in your town, for our community, especially for our babies. Our babies deserve y'all, right? And I hope y'all are properly appreciated the way you should be also.
Thank you, brother.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, everyone, please come tomorrow. Come get these jewels while you can. Come get these jewels while we can. Not all the elders are still teaching, okay? So she's with us. She's going to be with us for a long time more.
That's right.
And the fact is, we need to get these jewels while we can. So come
Yes.
get it.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. Share.
So I'd like to see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I stand in agreement with everything you just said. Right? She's going to
Thank
live
you.
long and she's going to live strong.
That's right.
And we're going to make sure when she do leave, she leave empty, because we're going to take it all. And we're gonna take it all. Right? Thank y'all so much. We appreciate you. And
Thank you.
all right.
It's
Thank
been
you.
a privilege.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Peace and
It is
blessings.
Good night, everybody. See you
Good
tomorrow.
night.
See you
Good
tomorrow.
night.
Inshallah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Good night.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff.
So it is interesting. I pulled up a Project Muse list of sundown towns,
Oh,
and
great job.
it's also, I'm going to share this. You can click from each state. I shared it on the comment, so you can get the link of different sundown towns. It's a project that is being done to collect it. But this is the list of sundown towns that were in
Jersey.
Allendale, Alloway,
Huh?
Mayfield,
Come
Bordentown,
on.
Carteret, Cherry Hill, Clark, Clifton, Dividing Creek, Fairlawn, Garwood, Glenrock, Greenbrook, Haddonfield, Hamilton Township,
All New Jersey.
Hillside, Hohokus, Levittown, Lewin Park, Long Valley, Mawa, Laurel, Ocean. Patterson is not a sundown town, neither was Princeton. They have in the asterisk up below. It's not a suspected sundown town, but interest for other reasons. And Ridgewood, Saddle River, Sea Park, Somerset, Spring Lake, Tenafly. All those were
Up south, baby.
sundown
The
towns
slave state of the north had got some serious racial baggage. Good find, Jonathan. Good find.
in New Jersey. And it's interesting. I put the link in here, and you can see it, and you can look at each state and what towns were at some point sundown towns. But that becomes, I remember HBO during the in HBO like 2019, 2020 did some great science fiction, uh, and whether it be The Watchmen, which great show, but it informed everyone of Tulsa for the
Yeah.
first time in their lives, or the first time they heard of what happened in Tulsa and the Tulsa massacre. Uh,
And that was
and
the tip of the
then
Quetzal.
Kenilworth should be included,
Yeah.
and actually
Kenilworth
for
used to be the
Queen
capital of
Mother
Klan.
Amaku, it's an
Yes.
ongoing project, right? It's an ongoing project, and if it's not there, you should check out that project and call them up, because literally they are asking for people to help them complete the project. And wow, was a Klan cross burning sundown town. Wow, you should definitely call the project because they are documenting it. Right, this is history that they want to erase. This is history that they didn't want to be taught. And this is, I think, very interesting to and very necessary to preserve. We are joined for
Hey,
a short amount of time
Jonathan,
by,
before
yes,
you go to her, I just want to add something. You know what was interesting, I think, and I want to just make sure we don't forget it. You know, she was saying that when her husband decided to run for public office, right? The level of pushback that they got, right? Because they recognized that was the power structure. You know, next time we have her on, I definitely want to make sure that we try to talk to her about that, right? Running for office back then. Because I know that they went into this whole idea of reconstruction and all of that, but she was saying that the trouble came to her family when he decided to run for public office. So want to just put a pin on that. Sorry about that, John.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
no,
what
no,
set
no
everything
problem.
off. That's right.
Yeah,
Right, and the work of, and I love that she was an educator
yeah,
and
yeah,
an activist,
yeah.
and that her whole history is that history of post Brown versus Board of Education, where there was that initial severe backlash, where it's like, we're just going to fire all these black teachers. We are going to intimidate these teachers who are involved in it. We are going to make sure that they are vulnerable and they will feel vulnerable. And we are going to eventually uh, take their children and put them in front of teachers who hate them at
Whoa,
different schools,
And-
because
and- and-
black teachers all over the South were
whoa,
fired,
wow,
not moved, fired en masse. Like there were like 10,000 black teachers fired in the South after Brown versus Board of Education. And they took the kids who were in segregated black schools and they put them in white schools in front of teachers who literally hated them.
wow.
Many
You,
of the teachers
you
would be
cannot make
like,
this stuff
we
up.
don't want we don't want to have black teachers teaching white kids because we don't want these black male teachers teaching our white daughters.
Wow.
And that was part of the push to literally fire. So we fought to end segregation, and their response was, cool, we will put your black children in front of a bunch of white teachers who actually hate them because they hated their parents and they hated them black teachers. They did not want them there. They had them fired and put them in these schools. So it's just interesting where we don't talk about that other part. And her case of the teacher before was she was active, involved in the movement. They were like, no, we have your job. Like, all over the South, there's not teacher tenure, right? Why? We think teacher tenure and people attack it. They're like, oh, you're just trying to, protect bad teachers. No, the whole history of teacher tenure isn't to protect bad teachers or teachers who can't teach. It's to protect teachers to have a personal life or a political life outside of the school so that they're not punished randomly for outside activities as they can be in schools all over the South.
Wow.
Yeah,
John, you teaching, brother. You teaching
oh
tonight.
yeah, oh yeah. But of course, where we at today, the attack on education, right, is no accident because they're worried about white kids who were in the streets with black kids during
Right.
the George Floyd summer, getting educated out of their racism by stories like Willa Cofield's.
Mhm.
It all
And
comes
by
together.
teachers and by curriculum and by curriculum that make them think, and teachers who make them think, right? Like, so all of that's there. And we are joined by a teacher right now, Richard Avent. You are part of Each One Teach One. You are an educator. You are an educator of many Black and brown kids. Uh, Talk to us. What is Each One Teach One? Give us some of that history, that background, and welcome to All Politics Local, our local.
Welcome, welcome. I don't know if y'all can see me. I'm actually on a rapid response to the hospital, but my name is Richard Avent. I am the founder of Each One Teach One. Each One Teach One is a youth mentorship who focus on bridging the gap in the community, because I feel like there's a foundation that starts off when we are born. Like, I come from a culture where we actually was raised by a village, you know, and through my teachings, like I came from a good mom. And my grandmother took care of me and my siblings, and when we came from that, when I lost my brother, I ran to the streets, you know, running around with, you know, some hoodlums, doing X, Y, and Z up under the sun, and I had to take a significant amount of time locked up during at least 6 years of my life I lost. And during that course, I had to educate myself, re-educate myself, come home, link with a few organizations. New Direction is one of them with Khalil Tut. And doing the work with him, I happened to actually reach out to the youth more and gravitate towards them, because there was a disconnect between the elders and the youth. And I'm realized that, you know, it takes time to we had to raise each other like a village. So each one teach one is like, you know what? Let's hold each other accountable. Let's Your son is my son, your nephew is my nephew. Let's take it back to the old ways of how we are monitoring and are self-policing our community and decreasing the violence by learning that, you know what? There's nothing wrong with communicating with another brother that look just like me, that, you know what, our issue that we have and it's not that serious, you know?
So, so
I'm listening.
you're a mentoring organization. Where are you based out of, and how did the organization start? And where do you where are you located? What do you do? How did it
Okay.
begin?
You can find me. I'm actually located with the hub on Prince Street. That's where you can find me. That's where a lot of our kids are located at. I started, I could say I probably was born into doing this because my grandmother, rest in peace to my grandmother, she was like an activist in East Orange, giving out food to the community, helping out the youth and stuff like that. But what birthed it was when I came home and I realized that we have a lot of youth who actually needed help. Because I have a lot of mothers who came to me saying that they sons need help with getting back to school. They fighting. They get into a lot of gun violence. And I figured that, you know what, I had my elders teach me. Let me just start trying to change the culture, you know. And I give a big credit to Khalil Tuck for New Direction, because he planted a seed in my head to grow as to be maturely as well, you know. And that's exactly where it came from. You know, all the work I've been doing in the city, you know, like right now I'm about to go to a crime scene, well, at the hospital, you know, like this is what my passion is for, to help those who need help. So I started this in like 5 years ago. I started, but I didn't really get off the ground until like the last 2 years. Like that's, I could say that definitely the last 2 years working with New Direction.
Okay. Oh, so Each One Teach One is a part of New Direction. New Direction is a community service organization inside of Newark that
I
does
say,
a lot of mentoring.
brother, because we have it as a one, you know what I mean? But it's an umbrella, because I might have some resources with kids that if I can assist them through other organizations, I can bring them to New Direction. New Direction has some kids, they can bring them to my meetings and youth meetings that we have, and we could bring the youth all together, because they all in the same, a lot of them go to the same school, the same neighborhood. So we work hand in hand, literally, in the city of Newark.
Okay.
Umbrella is the Brick City Peace Collective. Both New Direction and Each One Teach One function under that umbrella.
Umbrella as
And
well,
umbrella
along with OVP too.
Okay.
I'm trying to folks to understand how this is how we create what we call an ecosystem.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
A
yes.
network of organizations and institutions that are on the same issue, sharing similar resources, working as relatively close together to make certain deliverables to our community.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. What and so what are some of the things that what are some of the things that you're working on right now in terms of mentoring and mentorships?
Okay, as of right now, well, today we had the honor of me, each one teachable and New Direction had the honor of actually doing a celebrity read at Mount Vernon where we read to third graders and pre-K today. Right?
Okay.
Today.
What did y'all read? That's the question.
Well, they had books over there for selection, so we gave like certain books they had in their own little library we picked out. I wanted to really teach them a couple of the history and stuff, let them read stuff, but they said next time you come back, I might come back with my own book. I teach them about history a little bit. Um, I read a book called, it was like imagination. It's about togetherness, no bullying, peace amongst each other, and how to be nice. That was the book I read that will relate to them as of right now. Cause they was like 8, 7 years old, 6 years old. But the next time I'm definitely gonna bring one of my books. Yeah. And what I'm working on now is I'm actually trying to put together a youth event where I'm trying to do a youth showcase with local artists that's young, probably from 14 to 17, I believe. I might start it at 13. I'm looking to do that this summer, and I'm looking to partner with anybody who's willing to make a difference in the community with the youth. So I'm basically networking right now. Every Wednesday we at the hub already, so we have a youth group every Wednesday night at the hub. So I'm looking to expand that and trying to do another event, to bring awareness to what's going on in society with the youth. So that's what I'm working on right now, networking.
And it's I think it's always very important that some of the most important work that we do is locally, right? We do meetings once a week, talking to kids, making a difference on your block, and therefore making a difference in the community. So I know we're going to have you back on the show again to talk
See,
about more stuff that's going on, but
and
very much appreciated.
right now also what's coming up is that I just remembered we had the Peace Academy where each one teach one new direction are doing public safety for the Brick City Peace Collective Peace Academy on Bergen Street, and this next weekend we are taking over 50 youth to the Wax Museum.
Okay,
So I'm looking forward to that experience.
and
Yeah,
that's great because
we went to the
the
African
part of
American. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, you just cut out the last thing. You went to where?
2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we went to the African American Museum out there in DC with 50 of our youth. So they was able to see from the 1700s all the way up until the present
Yeah.
what was going on in our culture.
Yeah, like this is what I'm talking about in terms of the work that's incredibly important and often undervalued, right? Like we talk about the rates of crime and violence that have gone down in Newark to like 19 below 1960 levels, and this is all a part of it. The work you're doing is all a part of it. The work that that New Direction is doing is all a part of it. And this is part of and this is what it looks like, right? It's not flashy. It is just having meetings weekly, going on trips, having conversations, and working with other people who are also trying to do the right thing, block by block.
That is prevention as intervention.
Intervention, yes, it is. And
Yep.
we did with a lot of
And
conflict resolution as well. So, and after that, it's intervention, like you said.
Okay. And what would be and just break down that difference between intervention and prevention.
Well, prevention will be preventing the problems before they came about. You know, what we do as prevention on our end, we get to know what's going on, so we try to prevent it from happening, from starting to spiral in wildfire. You know, and then the intervention would be us intervening with the sources and the resources that we have and try to mediate the problem that's at hand, which
Mm,
resolve into the conflict resolution that we do. Of course, a lot of us get certified training on the work that we do, and we go from there. You know.
okay. And so intervention deals with problems that already have begun,
Yeah.
but they are scaled back, scaled down, they're de-escalated because of very specific training that you have and that you've gone through.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thank
Like
you.
I'm at the hospital now. I had to sponsor one of the rapid scenes response that happened in the city.
Okay.
I'm part of that team as well with the OVP office that I work with.
Oh,
That's an
that's what you said when you had to
that's an
you were
important
having to
space of
go.
intervention.
Yeah,
That's a
Okay.
critically important space of intervention.
exactly.
Mm. Okay.
Now,
So I'm gonna let you get to that important work. I know that you were supposed to be on
okay.
there earlier, but you were like, I got a call. I got a call. I
Yeah,
gotta go because part of what you need to do at in intervention means that you've got to go deal emergency services because this is all a part of the work that
exactly.
you do. All right. Well, one, thank you, and I'll let you get back there. One last question. Uh, we always ask all of our guests, who's your favorite hip hop artist, individual, group? Who you rocking with now, or who are you listening to?
Okay, one of my favorite, I had to say L Cool J.
Okay.
L Cool J, man, that was one of my favorites growing up. Um, going rocking with who I'm listening to now. It mix up, man, because some days I might throw on some Johnny Gill, or some days I might throw on some Ja Rule, DMX. So it's like music saved. That plays another part. Maybe one next episode I can tell you, like, music is a story of my life, man. It kept
Okay.
me in a bubble where that's my peace zone. So I just love all music, to be honest with you. But with his hip hop, LL Cool J, the Kango, the chains, it was different, man. It was different.
Okay. All right. Thank you, man. All right. Peace.
All right, peace, man. Peace, everyone.
All right. As all politics are local, we are hopefully going to be joined soon by Hakim Green. Hakim is in Orlando. He's in a live concert right now, and he's in a live concert with KRS-One. He said he was going to jump in at some point tonight and hopefully get a shout out. So hopefully that happens. Hakim Green, as we call him, our ambassador to hip hop in Newark, and we love having him on. Good show so far.
Yeah, with the exception of all this drama I'm going through with my goddamn connection. Pardon me cussing. I don't know why I'm having this problem.
That's fair. That's
But I
all
want
right.
to
That's
just
all right. We
lift up
know.
something very quickly, because you just saw in real time what we actually do.
And froze up again. He said you saw in real time what we actually do, and I think you were talking about your back.
Yeah. Richard was on his way to the hospital, right? After getting called about someone, going in, they'd been harmed in the street. Hospital does not.
All right. Add again, but I think that you were talking about like the programs that exist because often hospitals become sources of both pain, obviously pain and trauma. And Zaid, you back?
I'm trying to be back. I apologize for y'all. I have no idea why I'm having these issues. I done changed browsers. I done everything, right? But
Okay. Are you
anyway,
on Chrome?
huh?
Are you on Chrome?
Yes.
Okay.
But but
And did
hospitals.
did you close everything else on your computer? Close out
Yes,
everything else. Close out all the other programs. You've
yes,
only got
yes,
Chrome going. All right,
yes.
that's fine.
So I like, ain't nothing but the
Fair.
devil, right?
Grafted.
But
Right.
at the hospital, two things happen. One is that we have to create a safe space for that person.
Wow. Your your browser's not giving you any mercy, man. It's just waiting till you got going, then it just shuts you off.
Oh,
They're playing in your face, man. They're playing in
oh,
your face.
and the devil laughing at this too. They cracking up, right?
It's a
Right,
conspiracy.
right.
But I'll try and do this as best I can, and I may just have to just jump up. I need to. It might be God telling me to go, eat properly and break my fast. It might not be the devil.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But
Fair enough.
three things: hospitals, usually the police come in and intimidate folks as to how to testify or whatever they need to do, right? To take control of a situation in a way that continues the harm. We come in, give folks resources to survive what happened to them when they leave the hospital. And it also gives us a point to actually examine what happened and who needs to be spoken to.
Got him again. And they just cut him off right when he starts to get into it. That's
Oh,
terrible, Zaid. Like it is a darn conspiracy. They're trying to play in your face, man. All right, so Zaid, yeah, Ed, I think Zaid is
I think Saeed can hear us, but I don't think that his video
right.
just keeps
right,
stopping. You know,
right. So actually, one last thing: turn your video off, keep your sound on,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then finish saying
yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah, no. What I
See
was,
if that
I
works.
hope we can get through this, and I apologize again. But
Because if it's this, that just means
three points of
it's your actual
contact that are
Wi-Fi.
important, right? The least safe, unfortunately, is how the police come in, right? We come in first and try to give the person some sense of safety and resources that they need to survive in a way that they need to be able to survive when they leave the hospital. And second, on top of that, we also try to figure out where else to intervene to prevent continued violence, right? And our high risk interventionists will then move into those spaces, have those difficult conversations with those heads that are hot and fully loaded, ready to do something else, to not do that and to consider doing something else, right? So that point of intervention is fully loaded, and a lot of people really may not know and appreciate just how we actually do this work. It's work that requires very serious training, right? And it's ain't no yo chill kind of thing. It really requires a skill, and that's what it means to be a high risk interventionist, right? And as at the that's a high point of what we call the work of the credible messenger, right? And that's I just want folks to appreciate how that work gets done. So it was, we see Roundtree sometime leaving us to go to the hospital, right? She had been doing that before we built this out. She is a faith-based credible messenger, right? And she does it from a faith-based perspective, right? So those resources are all important to families, to victims, to people who've been harmed, to people who are in the middle of all that stuff. It's very important stuff. That's the cutting edge of what community-based violence intervention looks like. I hope y'all heard that. Now you muted, Jonathan.
I was going to say, Zaid, we heard all of it, and that was great. And the problem that you're having is with your Wi-Fi. So
I
your
know.
Wi-Fi.
I don't know
So
why.
there might be. Well, there are two things. There are other things connected to your Wi-Fi that are taking up bandwidth. So whether it's your TV or other people might be on your Wi-Fi is crowded. So you probably need you probably need a better router that has more of a bandwidth so that you can be on and other people could be on. Because you're on right now, so it's only cutting you off when you're using more bandwidth with the picture. So that's probably what the issue is. So you like it's just a bandwidth thing for you right now. There's other stuff going on in your browser that you, I mean, on your Wi-Fi that you may not, that you might not be taking into consideration. That's all. It's a little crowded space.
Teach, teacher.
All right, all right. Well, remember, I taught during COVID, so
Yeah.
we had to, this is counseling I was giving the students all day. I was like, kid, you can turn off your browser because you're gonna be off, you're gonna be frozen. So just here, that's fine. And they loved that. They were like, oh, I can turn off my browser.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Right. So, but
So
this was
who we waiting for now, John? Who's supposed to be?
Hakim. Hakim supposed to be on at 8, but he's actually performing live in Orlando, and it was going to jump in around this time. So we're just waiting for him to jump in. And he was when he jumped in, he would be he might be bringing KRS in with him. Yep.
So they performing live
Absolutely.
down in Florida.
Yep.
Okay.
They're performing live in Florida. So, what do you think of the show so far? And what do you think that has to do with what's going on now? And I'm just throwing it out to you, and then we could talk about some other stuff as we're getting into as I'm hitting him up and as we're waiting for him to jump on.
Well, no, the show is excellent. What I'd like to talk about though is if we could talk a little bit about Representative Al Green, who's just said, down in Congress. That's why I was hoping that that Congresswoman McIver would have came on because he was censored basically for getting up and making a statement as Trump was lying, and so it would be interesting to see. Well, two things. One is that there were not other folks who stood up with him, right? And that presentation was a problem, right? Because this brother is 77 years old. And there are a lot of young folks who are in Congress. That's one, and then two, some of these people that are in Congress are the sons and daughters of some of the civil rights leaders, and they sat on their behind, right? Not only did they sit on their behind, some of them had signs that looked like fans or whatever. I mean, and that was their level of protest, right?
Right.
And I was just looking at, all of the different Congress people that was censored, from that were in our history. So if you go back and you look at, in fact, there's an entire list that shows, all of the people that were censored and why they were censored. But if you look at, just in terms of their group, you look at Representative Rashida Tlaib, right? You look at Jamal Bowman, right? You look at, and even Representative Charles Rangel. Remember that?
Right.
Then you had Adam Clayton Powell, who was censored, back in 1967. So that's why
That's really started coming for Adam. That's right.
Right. So I'm confused by all these young people, right?
But Eddie, listen to this. The flip side of that is that all these segregationists and all these racists never face the same level of censure.
Right. I was trying to find out what happened to that. What happened to that lady who yelled up and called Obama a liar? What happened to her?
Right.
Margaret Taylor Greene is like
she's going to be running for the Senate
in
Georgia.
Picture book racist for the new for Georgia right now, right? Out of her mind. I mean, really, the disgusting, in her total demeanor, racist as hell, never been censored.
Right.
Yeah. With me, I look at what the Democrats are doing. I look at the different forms of individualized protest and all the other stuff, and walking out, and that's fine, right? Like the yelling during the speech and walking out. When the president of the United States does things as egregious as try to single-handedly cut the Department of Education, who acts lawless right now, there are no limits, right? Like in terms of, yeah, you're going to get up, you're going to walk out, you're going to yell, and they're going to censure you. That's really not the issue, right? I think that if the Democrats aren't spending a lot of time organizing in these red states, because a lot of these things that both sides are doing are very performative, right? Like the white Republicans are doing a lot of very performative white nationalist stuff. They are doing stuff to like even putting out feelers on trying to give a federal pardon for the person who killed George Floyd. These are things that are set to incite chaos and confusion.
Yes.
I think that, and I think we need to be starting to think, and I think we have already been thinking, but I think that it becomes clearer and clearer, if it hasn't been already, that Trump, with what he's doing with the military, with the resegregation of the military, with the there seems to be an air to want to provoke a large, massive protest so he could call in the military to, I believe, commit a massacre. I think that that is something that seems to be in the works. The lying, the constant lying, reminds me of what authorities do before they get ready to kill people. And I think that that is why that's why the level of lying is so bothersome, so troubling, so menacing. I think that's why people have been talking about fascism. I think that's why people have been talking about like the levels to which there's not a reality, right? Like you're just presenting a reality that doesn't exist. You are trying to create maximum confusion so that ultimately the people who are like white and wealthy can take the money as they're doing, get contracts, do whatever they're doing with the federal budget, and everybody else is fighting. And we're fighting on these because we're divided by race, we're divided by gender. If you show me a black person who was supporting Trump, odds are there'll be many people, or at least in my experience of the people I talked to, who hated trans or hated progressives or hated another liberal agenda, right? Like, or there are levels to which they have had like their levels of hate, right? Their levels of division. And I think that this level of getting us to fight each other, getting us to kill each other, create maximum chaos. So the people at the top, or at least a group at the top, can just take the money. Because for all the price of eggs and talk about the economics, there are no economic programs for poor white people right now. The Trump administration is not pushing. I mean, this hurting poor white people, actually. He's hurting farmers with the tariffs. And so an entire group of people who are in rural white America who are 100, like who are very deeply red, who are very deeply Republican, who are very deeply MAGA, are being hurt by the first push of his economic policy, which is tariffs. They're many people who have these federal jobs in these southern states were Trump supporters. So people are being fired in Oklahoma. They're being fired all over the country in these federal jobs. Those were part of his base too. I really don't think he cares about anything. I think that the people who are making decisions, they care about their own money. They have a lot of money. They want more. They want more of the federal budget. It doesn't matter. And these people aren't being offered anything. I think that with Democrats, walking out, performing, making videos, I hope they are doing the work that Raz Barack is doing in New Jersey, which is yes, he is trying to become the next governor of the state of New Jersey, but in doing so, he is organizing at a grassroots level statewide. He is going precinct to precinct, town to town, in towns in South Jersey, Central Jersey, North Jersey, and making an attempt to get people of all races to vote for him. And doing that by organizing precinct by precinct across the state. I think if the Democrats aren't really trying to put money into and think about and organize precinct by precinct in all these red states, that there are a lot of red states that used to be swing states. Ohio used to be a swing state. Obama carried Indiana. They're like, people carrying Florida used to be a swing state. If Democrats aren't trying to really organize around actual stuff that makes a difference in people's lives, around actual programs that actually make a difference in people's lives, while calling out the white supremacy, as in like, come on, poor white people, don't be fooled by that again. Because they get you every time. Like, it's the same playbook. They make you think that it's like in New Jersey. It seems like, I would guess, that the Republican who gets the nominee will be the nominee. What they're going to run first on would be how much education money is going to Newark and other urban areas. They will complain about state school funding formulas and make you think that the reason why white people in suburbs are feeling pain is because Black people in Newark are getting all the funding, right? Which is crazy when you think about, one, in New Jersey, suburban education and the education that is received is some of the best in the country, and that they would think that the problem is Black people in Newark and Patterson before it is the multimillionaires who are not paying their fair share of taxes, who they don't even want to put a wealth tax on. How they're just almost like ingrained to be, the problem is there. The problem is with those people. It is the deliberate ability to use that type of division, as opposed to, and what I think, what I'm, in terms of listening to the mayor's message, and one of the things I think that I like about those push is there's enough for everybody, right? Like, but we need to focus on the right things. We have the same problems in Newark that are had in other places.
Did you
Ed,
mute?
is that?
Yep.
No, I was just calling on you or Zide. I talked for a little bit.
So here's the thing, John. Two things. One is that folks have this skepticism about the election actually being stolen, right? And when you take a look at all of these people who are unqualified, in all of these different departments, some folks even come from being television hosts or podcast hosts, and they are in charge of major agencies, right? So when you look at the level of racism and white supremacy that is going on in this country, it is absolutely phenomenal, right? And I heard a pastor say yesterday how rich Elon Musk is. Do you guys know how rich this guy is? He's the richest guy in the world. Don't look it up. Just tell me if you know.
Don't know the dollar amount, but yeah, don't know
He's
the
in the
dollar
top
amount, but
five.
yeah.
He's like in the top 5. He's up there.
Right.
Well, he actually has. According to Forbes,
And
said
he's got more. And he's gotten richer
He is cleaning up.
since the election.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they've said, right? But they said that as of 2025, as of March 2025, according to Forbes, they're saying that his net worth is $345 billion and growing. Did y'all hear what I said?
I did.
Right, 345 billion, and he gave Trump $300 million. He put $300 million into Trump's election. Now, I want to know, where's the audit? I'd like to see where did that money actually go? Right? But the problem is we'll never know that because he is actually the one guy, right, who is policing himself. Remember, there's no one at the IRS who can do that. Why? Because he fired everybody. And he's in charge of what's going on over there.
They fired all the forensic auditors, right?
Right. So how do we find that out? Right? Those kinds of things that, and remember, I was saying to Kim, for those of you who don't know, my wife, and remember, Trump ran around for the entire 4 years talking about the election was stolen and that the Democrats cheated, right? And the problem is that the Democrats are saying that privately, but they won't say it publicly because they are afraid that what he was saying was that democracy doesn't work in this country, that they may turn around and hit them with. But, you got more and more folks saying, well, if we don't know where that $300 million went, how do we know that didn't go into somebody's actual pocket at some of these places? Because remember, it almost looks like a total shutout where he won all of these elections. But there's no evidence because nobody can go and actually find that. But remember, there were people who were being paid $1 million, Jonathan.
Yeah, part of me is like, the reason why I don't worry about that is because there's nothing I can do about it, right? There's no, like, literally, there's nothing. It is purely at this point. I figure that if the Democrats, when they were in charge of every investigative tool in the United States, the CIA, the FBI, all kinds of surveillance, the NSA, they had all that, and if they didn't expose that from November, from November to January, if there was nothing about that, then there's nothing we could do about that. Because when they gave up those reins of government, they gave up the reins of all that stuff. And that stuff's just not coming out, right? So to me, that's not as important as understanding where we are and what they're doing and what the response is. Because the response isn't, yeah, the election was stolen, it wasn't stolen. What can you do about that? You just have a more revolution in the streets. He calls the National Guard, starts killing people. Like where does that? What is that? What does it do? I don't know. I don't know how that solves the problem. Right. I do know that Trump is popular.
I think what he
I
did.
do know that he's massively popular, and he's so popular, and he has like these little shock troops that Republicans are scared of him. So it's not like he doesn't have popular support. He does. And it's not like we can't verify on many levels that he at least has the support of half the country, including the majority of white people. He does. So whether or not the race was closer, whether she had thousands of more votes, I don't know, right? I don't know if it's important because there are a lot of people who don't just like him, but love him. And they love what he's doing. And we could talk about whether or not it was stolen, it wasn't stolen, but that doesn't change the fact that that because of his white supremacy, because of what he says, he is loved. The more outrageous things he says, the more they like him, the more they love him. They think he's from God.
Mm-hmm.
They think God saved his life and brought him to them.
That's right.
Like for many white people, he's a messianic figure.
That's right.
And we're like, how you worship the devil? But it is what it is. So I don't worry about whether or not people say the election was stolen or not. I have no evidence of it. There's nothing I can do about it. It's a conspiracy theory that just focuses time away from where it should be. I think that where it should be is on doing the grassroots organizing that is necessary to get control of some of these communities that we don't have control over on a basic truth level. I think that this is upside down day where a whole lot of the country is just stark raving mad, crazy as hell, which tracks because that's white supremacy. James Baldwin wrote about it. Like when we look at what James Baldwin wrote about, what Du Bois wrote about, when we look at what all of these writers, Toni Morrison wrote about, when we look at all of these writers write about, the historians talk about, they talk about why that you know white people live in a world that's not real because they think we are something that we are not. They thought slaves were happy. They thought we weren't human. Like white supremacy exists in a lie, and it exists in upside down world. We just been spoiled being born during or at the beginning or in the middle of the civil rights movement, where there's an entire different worldview that was that took root in the world we were in. But we take for granted that there was an entire worldview that we could tell by just looking at the TV shows from the 1950s and 60s and early 60s and now, right? Hell, we can tell from looking at TV shows from the 80s and that, like what we look at as popular culture, what we look at as what the world should be and shouldn't be. And that is why I think we are having such a hard time understanding half the country that still sees the whole world in the way they want to see it. That's devoid of actual facts or truth or any of that stuff. And what Trump, what he buys, what he feeds into, seems to be like, hey, what is truth? They're trying to teach all this horrible things to your kids about how bad you are. We're just going to get rid of it. We don't want it. What? What? Like, whether it's attack on race or attack on gender or trans, like he's like, man is a man, woman's a woman. We know what it is. What? They disagree? That's crazy. So there are a whole lot of people who think that my perspective and your perspective, right, is just stark raving mad. And they really were good at taking that perspective that was a mainstream perspective in the 30s. Like that's what the way they think, that's how most white people, a lot of black people thought 30s, 40s, but we had Amiri Baraka, black power and the aesthetic arts movement, the black arts movement, and the ways of looking at and Malcolm X talking about and the Nation of Islam, talking about the way the world is really flipped the other side, right? Like no, like this is actual history, this is scholarship, and you had like 60 years of scholarship just pointing out that no, a lot of those things that they believed were true, that white people believed were true, were myths. From as basic as why you got white Jesus when you know that's not true. Why do you and push people to have these discussions? And that's like white supremacy 101, real easy, real basic, right? Why you got white Jesus in your church? Can you tell people why you have a picture of a date like God, right? A picture of the Holy Trinity that is also white supremacist in that you know Jesus wasn't white. And any kid who has that conversation with their church will be pushed back on, sometimes pretty ruthlessly, as in shut up, get out, whatever. And it was like, well, why? Why does it mean so much to you that Jesus is white? Why does it, right? But that's not just that. It's not just that stained glass. That's everything. And so I think that like when the deeper issue, the deeper problem is how do you do the grassroots movement of block by block, door by door, district by district, and not reclaim a politic of a party, but a notion of what reality is. If they ain't trying to do that, if they're not looking at this is not just a crisis, this is not just Trump. Trump may be crazy, may be whatever, a showman. He might not believe anything that he says. I don't believe he believes anything he says. I believe he believes in money. I don't know what he believes in more than money. I can't tell you.
But
But
what you said, Jonathan, if they're not doing that, but what?
they're not
If
doing
they're not,
that,
if they're
then they're
not
wasting their
organizing that
time.
way, then what?
Then they're wasting their time because there's not a TikTok video that's going to change the outcome or place of what's happening now. I appreciate them walking out. I appreciate the theatrics, but if it's not tied to organizing block by block, organizing in these red states, in these swing states, to organize to get truth back, to organize at these like levels of board meetings and grassroots levels of we have to teach history the way it actually is because like I saw an article in the New York Times that talked about how the Chinese looked at this and they're equating Trump's reelection the with their own movement in China that changed the Cultural Revolution in China, right? And the Cultural Revolution shirked and pushed down things that are Western and pushed up things that are Chinese. It is a culturally nationalist movement. Trump isn't a political movement as much as he is a culturally nationalist movement. It is a movement of culture that is a bigger, uglier, toxic, flip version of a Black arts movement that is about love of our Blackness and pushing back against white supremacy and the way they have of looking at the world, which, and the thing that we always had, like Black scholars, Black activists, always had one thing on our side, and that was truth. We fought for truth. When we went into the academy, we went in the academy to push scholarship based on truth. So it was an ideology and worldview and a cultural movement that was rooted in empiricism, in factual truth, in exposing lies. The Black Panthers believed in exposing the contradictions. They would look at these things and they'd be like, hey, you purport to be this, but this is your history. This is what we've looked up. And there is a moral power to that, and there's an intellectual power to that. And that is a basis of organizing culture, politics, community. This movement over here, and it is a movement, is a white Christian nationalist movement that is stoked, and because I think there are two levels to it. It is stoked to cause maximum chaos so that the very rich can just take what they want and go back to their gilded age in that way. Hey! Welcome to All Politics Are Local. We were talking about you, man. How's the concert going?
He muted.
All right, your mic is muted right now. We can't hear anything you're saying.
Oh, he got you now.
All right, we got you.
You gotta know about Tupac and Juice and other biggies was on Tuesday, but you thirsty for the truth. Basically, what I'm saying, you study the culture's proof. Why you wanna hear pop and you always look to improve? Number two, this one is important as can be. Don't you put the rap live with the words over your feet. It's okay to have a few ad-libs, but that's the least. You fall over your your lyrics MCs know that the shit is out of form. Don't be up the kicking through a door with your gut without PIPs in a 4-4 number 4. You probably hear this one all the time. Never shit right proving your people did a crime. Number 6. This one is as simple as it gets. Real fans relate when you know you set up for a hit. Number 7. You know that your gift is like a weapon. Kids follow when you know you might have just a lesson. Perfect role model not, but you still a blessing. Sick enough to write about whatever, but teach us a lesson. Number 8. The biggest mistake is being fake. Making a loser with rhymes only got it on your fake. Number 9 should have been number 1 to me. Don't forget about your producers and feed them when you weak. And they help you make the record and respect it, don't be cheap. Whatever y'all works out right that second, pay the fee. Number 10. Ain't nobody on another hand if you do. You just wanna fly from the top 10. No ghost striking a lot of them for hooks, but all that in. When you go to a whole person that leads and don't pretend. But
Yes.
these fools will have that crap, they shake up, something break up. They don't wanna freestyle with rice. Speaking of freestyles, they gotta be up in top. If you call it a freestyle, because if you write them, they not. And 2 freestyles, every still in the spot. The other freestyle is rappers, they ain't heard you stop. Step one, truth, the truth, you don't be twisting the plot. Can't convey the fitness to embryo, real God, real God.
Oh.
R.I.P. to P.I.G. Take ya, R.I.P. to Big A. Take ya, R.I.P. to Big Pun. It's a 10 rap, yeah, R.I.P. to Frank Dog. Yeah, only being all we love. Yeah, R.I.P. Big's mom. Yeah, now we not say P.I., you say T. P.I., P.I. When I say R.I., you say T. R.I., R.I. Make noise. Real hip hop is in the building tonight. Now y'all know I
Nice.
can't.
Yo, family, I don't know if you guys can hear me. It's super loud.
We can
I
hear
just
you.
wanted to represent, bring real hip hop into the building. Literally, I'm about to open up for KRS-One. I actually go on next. That MC is called Razor, R-A-Y-Z-A. He's ill. He's ill with it. Everything off the top of the head, as you saw. Yeah, all
Freestyling.
hip
Nice.
hop is in the building.
It's a blessing to be here. So this next joint we about to
Nice.
do is the joint I
Thank you,
produced
man.
for 100 Proof. It's not out yet. We came to the party, you know what I'm saying? We came to bring.
Just type in the chat, John, so he can read.
Bro, rock, y'all ready to party for my brother KRS? I said, is y'all ready to party tonight?
Oh, this is nice. So this is cool because Hakim Green is at he's doing a concert in Orlando, and he's opening for KRS-One, and he is there, and just bringing us in, man, to some hip hop in the building. We appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot.
And Rhino popping it in the chat.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
So you could just
Cool.
type in the chat, John. Tell Hakim Green we heard him.
Oh yes.
You know, he asked if we heard him.
Yep. Oh, and I said yes. So I don't know if you can still hear me, but
No, you put it in the chat. We'll put it up for him.
no, I'm putting it directly in. All right. So yes. All right. No, we heard you. Thank you, man. Thank you, Hakeem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sending him a thank you.
But that's good.
Just got our performance credentials back.
Right.
Our post studio performance credentials.
Right.
Yeah.
That
No,
was
but
great.
that's good. I mean, we can, that just goes to show you, Jonathan, we can pop in from anywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
You
Which is
know,
always good, right? And
you know.
and we appreciate that. We definitely appreciate that. And he's getting ready to go on. I wish we had someone else down there who could have filmed the part his part, right? So from backstage, see what he was doing. So that's all good.
But Jonathan,
but that
so I just want to comment on, what you were saying on two levels. One is that, like you, I hope that there's some organization going on, right? Because I know that's really the way we fight back, right? The way you
right.
fight back is you organize, but it's got to be about organizing locally, right?
Mm-hmm.
because
block by block, precinct by precinct.
right, that has to be the pushback. The problem is, John, is that if you were listening to what we were having tonight with the elder, our problem is still a matter of low information, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not politically tuned in, right? Most of us, see what's going on with Donald Trump, and see what's happening to the world. I'll give you a real good example, Jonathan, because one of the things is I was hearing, and I heard this from Yvette Clarke yesterday, who is now the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and she was saying she wanted us to pay attention to if they are successful at getting through the cuts with Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, right? They've already got the bill passed, right? But she said if they're successful getting at the Trump's desk and he signed that, she said how it's going to touch us is most black folks. Remember, Jonathan, there was a time when our elders used to live in our houses, right? Your grandmother, your grandfather used to live in a house with you, and if you had an attic, they lived upstairs on the third floor. The kids, the family lived on the first floor. She said the way that's going to touch us most is because most of our elders who are still alive, i.e., Mayor Sharp James, is in a nursing home. And if your family doesn't have money, right, what's paying for that? She said Medicaid. Right. And if they cut Medicaid, if you don't have a job, your wife doesn't have a job, and all of the kids don't have a job, how are they going to pay for them to be taken care of in those facilities? How? Right? Or they're going to come back home, right? So
that was fair. I'm laughing because one of my I have adorable little kids
students is shouting
in
you
the
out,
seventh
yes.
grade, and so they're shouting me out. So hey, apparently favorite student in Alex's group, do well tomorrow at the tournament. All right, good luck, little kid. I got great little kids.
So one of our big issues, John, is that we have low information, right? And because we have low information, a lot of this stuff is is actually taking place over our heads, right? We're not really paying attention. And so remember what I'm not sure if you were on, John, when the mayor was on, but Zayed, you remember when the mayor said New Jersey, who would have thought New Jersey is becoming a swing state? Yes. Why? Because there are 50,000 more registered Republican voters today than there were before Trump ran the first time, right? So now, and it doesn't mean that there are more registered voters. Remember, there are more registered Democrats. Problem is, we're not organized to vote.
But I think it's not just.
But let me say this. Let me say this. Also, remember what he said, Zayed, about what Mitty was doing. As they were going around the state, Jonathan, what Mitty would do at the end of it, he would ask who was not registered to vote, right? And if you were not registered to vote, they would register you. Why? Because the mayor said that in his early meetings with some of the party bosses, they told him that he had to grow the base, and that if he grew the base by a particular percentage, he had an opportunity to win, right? That's one. And then two, did you see that article that Mitty sent us, Jonathan? I sent it to you. Did you get it?
Yes.
In the article, he said that the mayor was the favorite, right?
Yep. And he's leading in multiple polls, right?
Right. But the problem is really the problem that the article concluded with. They said that the problem is going to be, get this, Jonathan, turnout. Right? Who can get their people out to the polls? Remember,
get out to vote. That's always an issue.
So it's all about the turnout.
But I think it's also, I think that here's the thing that I believe is even more important. there is a cultural movement in the United States right now that if we don't recognize it and push back against it, we're going to lose. And I think that of all the people running, really, of all the politicians in the nation, I think that the one we have here is best equipped to understand that it's a movement and to provide a counter. And I believe that's what I believe that's what's already happening with the rhetoric, that there's enough for, basically his campaign has been, there's enough for all of us. We don't have to fight each other. We can work together. And if we make the rich pay their fair share, they're not going to leave the state. Stop making it seem like it's the education system in Newark that's the reason why your taxes are high, or it's because you're giving too much money to the Black kids in Camden that the reason why you don't have taxes the way you want. That is the politics of division that works. It is the thing that the white nationalism is susceptible to. It's the reason why they had this massive turnout for Trump and MAGA that, let's be real, is based on like actual lies. It's based on division and fear and hate. I think he has the ability to not maybe win. Oh, he will not win a majority of the white vote, but he won't lose as badly as the white vote, as badly as others, and hopefully be able to galvanize across race lines, right? Like get large, like, because the way Democrats win traditionally in New Jersey is they get they lose like 55% of the white vote. They get 45% of the white vote and like 2/3 of most everybody else and 90% of Black people.
Yeah, but
Right.
John, it
Coming out
it is
strong.
but it is going to be that very article said it's going to be about race, right? You know, subtly. But even the pollster Belcher said, he said one of the mistakes that was made now that he's looking at it right after the election, and he's looking at the polls, he's looking at all of the numbers, he's analyzing it. He said that one of the big issues, and this is what Roland Martin was dealing with yesterday. He said that one of the big issues, Jonathan, was just like with Hillary, where she was concentrating on white females, Harris and them was trying to go after, and same thing happened in Georgia, right?
Right.
Where they were worried about white women, right? And Black men actually came out for her. Same thing here,
Right.
Jonathan, right? A large contingency of Black voters just didn't go vote, right? They just were not paying attention, right? Or they were completely turned off. So what he was saying was that even now, and even if we look at Mayor Baraka, the article that came out this week that we got, where the mayor's the favorite and Mickey Sherrill is next. But remember, you know, it is about favoritism. Who do people favor? Who do people like? But it's about your base, right? Can you get your base to come out and support you, right? And that's got to be the key, Jonathan. That, you know, with all, I mean, remember that's what happened with Murphy. Mayor Baraka and Minnie Baraka was able to get the base in Essex County to come out and support him to do what? Save his behind.
Save his
Right.
behind. That's
Right.
right.
No,
At the
no.
last minute.
So
Exactly.
it's 100%. He needs the base, 100%, and he needs it activated, energized as never
Right.
before. He
Right.
needs it badly,
Right.
and he also needs to do what
Jonathan,
Abrams didn't do.
Yeah, but let me say this, Jonathan. So if you glean from the article, the man doesn't have a notoriety issue, right? Remember, in politics, we know that it's basically about two things, right? One, it's about people, do they know you? And then secondly, do you have enough money, right? To continue to fight in the areas where you can't organize. Do you have that money? So if we know that the mayor doesn't have a favoritism issue or a notoriety issue, it says to me that what Mitty ought to be doing then with whatever money is available, he need to be organizing, registering people to vote, and focused on doing what, Jonathan? Getting people out to the polls. That's what the article was basically saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because
right,
now,
and I think it's all that, right? Like I think that's 101. That's what has to happen at a bare minimum, right? But if we look at what happened to Abrams in Georgia, you're absolutely right. Abrams got the black vote out in substantial part, right? But she lost 70% of the white, like 7-0. Like she only got like 29% of the white vote. And Harris, right? Harris, the same thing. Harris got more Democratic votes. She got more votes, right? She straight up got more votes than Kemp did when he ran. She got more votes than Trump did in 2020 and 2016, right? Like she got more votes than Biden did in like Harris got more votes in 2024 than Biden did in 2020. The reason why she lost is because there was a white wave that flooded her out.
That's
right.
And immigrant wave.
No, with her it was a white wave that flooded her out in Georgia.
It was white, but you also had the Latino community that came out and supported.
No, that was in Pennsylvania. I'm just talking about Georgia, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
In Pennsylvania.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just talking about Georgia.
I'm sorry, but you talking about the governor's
just Georgia.
race.
No, I'm talking about both the governor's race and the 2024 race in Georgia, just in Georgia, right? So Harris, what Harris did in Georgia, right? So I'm just looking at just that state, and I was looking at those elections and just how well she did getting out her base and how well they in Georgia, like they've been working, but those white people in Georgia worked a little bit more because they came out the woodwork to vote, right? Like the in record numbers in those key states, right? And so what I'm saying is that, like, at the same time you're saying that the base and all the other, yes, all that normal elections, yes, and this election, yes, base has to be fired up, ready to go, 100%. Don't disagree with you, but there is a movement going on. And that movement is a national movement. Trump is the leader of a culturally nationalist movement, and that has to be pushed back on, right? Like there's a cultural nationalism that motivates people in hateful ways, and if you don't speak to that,
right-wing,
it's always a danger.
Cultural nationalism.
Right, and New Jersey especially, if you don't press back on that, then it is even more difficult in the general election. I think get that base fired up, do everything you need to do. I think if he wins the base, I think he can't be stayed. I think he gets the nomination.
Right.
I think he 100% gets the nomination, but he needs the base and everybody else to win in the general. I think the general is going to be hard, but I think he can win this nomination.
Yeah. But here's the thing though, Jonathan, and that's true. And if he wins the primary, John, I do believe he can raise enough money, right, at that point, because it would seem to me that all those other guys who are running who got tens of millions of dollars, you know, if their racism and white supremacy doesn't override that they would in turn around and support Mayor Baraka, and then, you know, hopefully we could really galvanize, you know, getting out the base and getting out the voters and getting his message, you know, out there, as you said, John, door to door.
I think his message is unifying, right? You know? I think he has a unifying message, right? Yeah. I know we're reaching out,
Jonathan.
Right.
You and I think so, but again, we're talking about operating in the era of Trump.
Right.
That's the problem, right? And so what I'm saying to you, Jonathan, is and you know I'm good for this. I'm saying and right.
We're both saying that.
Yes, and so, but one of the things I said to Mitty this week on the text chain we were on with Tamika and Rakia and Monifa, what I said to him on that text chain, I said, this is your wheelhouse, my brother. I said, this is what you do well, right? You know, and it seemed to me that FDU, the Fairleigh Dickinson University, they just gave you the answer. What they said was it's going to be the matter of who can get their base out. And we're just strictly talking the primary, John.
Right.
And they did the poll to determine what that is, right? And you know, and remember, I'm like you and me, Jonathan, you know, and Zaid, right? We're political science people, right? That's what we do. Minnie Baraka is on the ground, right? He's done the work. He's gotten people elected to office. So
And
he
that's
knows
why he's doing it community by community. Like he
Yeah.
is literally organizing he is doing a grassroots campaign of the entire state.
Right. Think about that, John.
Right.
It's just
Now,
a campaign of he's done it in
right.
cities.
Now I'm
he's
gonna
doing
give you
the
I'm
entire
gonna give you the last word because we're at
No, you had
9:05.
a last word. I'm done. Or give it to
No,
Zaid.
no,
Zaid got something
yeah.
to say.
All right, Zaid, last word.
Ain't no way we're gonna get much in on that. It's been a loaded show. I put in the chat millionvoters.org. This is a coalition strategy to mobilize and expand the base as Ed was talking about. I'm trying to get some of the organizers on the show so we can really expand that conversation. Had a hell of a conversation today. I just wanted to thank Ms. Cofield because she's a really special person. I didn't mention her age. She is 95 years young.
Oof, oof.
95.
Wow.
Right. So we really, we are really blessed to have her as a long distance runner. And at that point in her 90s, did she just get her recognition that she's due? We got to do better. We definitely got to do better. I want to think that, I had a totally different Richard Avent in my mind because I know other Richard Avents, right? I did not realize it was my little brother from New Directions. I didn't realize it was him, right?
Okay.
But it was good to see him in motion, right? That demonstrates what violence intervention looks like, right? So we were good to have that on. It was a great conversation all around. And my granddaughter, Chloe Desir from the Ironbound Community Corporation, young organizer, only in her 20s, passionately getting the word out, trying to prevent another toxic dumping site coming right into this town. And we should be bringing some other things into this town as we continue to try and improve its living quality for those of us who actually live here, So it's a loaded show. I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and turning it up.
All right, thank you. And let's have a good week. Everyone be safe, be careful, and we will see you next week. A special shout out, thanks Hakim Green. Hope you're doing well on your show right now in Orlando. And opening for KRS-One, that's great. And we'll talk to you soon. Also, shout out Donna. Donna, we miss you. We'll see you next week. Ed, you're on mute. Ed, you're still on mute.
I'm trying to get that last word in.
Zaid, say the book one more time, Jonathan.
Yeah, Chloe Desir. Yeah, Chloe Desir, Ironbound Community Corporation, Kellia Sweatt, and Marcella Simaderis, who are going to be with and taking care of Ms. Willa Cofield tomorrow at the Montclair Public Library at 12 o'clock. Our young
9
brother,
o'clock whistle.
Yes, right.
The book is called the 9 o'clock whistle.
I said 9 o'clock. The signing is at 12 o'clock. The book is at 9 o'clock whistle. I misspoke, right? And Richard Devine is Each One Teach One is a part of our Newark community violence-based intervention ecosystem, right? We saw that at work, and Hakim putting us right back on the stage, live, right?
All right. And shout out Jonathan to your high school student for tuning in.
Yes, a little shout out to the high school student. Do well tomorrow at the tournament. You guys will do well.
There you
All
go.
right, take care. Oh, actually, it's my 7th grade student. So a little 7th graders going to a middle school tournament. So congratulations.
Nice.
And well, not congratulations, but good luck and do well.
Well, no, good job. We're gonna speak it into existence. Congratulations.
All right. Well, that's good. That's great too. All right. Take care.
We'll see y'all next week, and you don't stop.